Behind the grand portraits and sparkling diamonds lies a story of four sisters bound by an unbreakable bond. How did the Grand Duchesses find peace amidst the looming shadows of a changing empire? Sink into your pillows as we explore the forgotten moments of beauty that defined the tragic yet elegant Romanov legacy of loss. Let's explore. You probably won't survive the revolution if you're wearing that much lace. But hey, at least you'll look fabulous while the history books write you in. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Wherever you are tonight, maybe you're curled up in London at 2 a.m. or drifting off in Sydney as the sun rises, drop your location and local time in the comments. It's cozy knowing we're all sharing this quiet moment together. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You push open the heavy oak door of the Alexander Palace, and the air shifts. It's cooler here, softer, as if the very walls are holding their breath. The corridor stretches before you, lined with pale green wallpaper that seems to glow in the filtered afternoon light. Your footsteps are muffled by the thick Persian runner underfoot, and you notice how the silence isn't empty. It's full of whispered laughter that once echoed here, of hurried footsteps in soft slippers, of the gentle creak of floorboards bearing the weight of 4 young lives. You're walking into the nursery wing now, where Olga, Tatiana, Maria, and Anastasia, known to history simply as OTMA, spent their formative years. And contrary to what you might imagine from the opulence associated with the Romanov name, their bedrooms were surprisingly, almost shockingly, simple. You pause in the doorway of what was once Olga's room. A narrow iron bedstead, painted white, sits against the wall. The mattress is firm, the pillow plump but not extravagant. A small wooden desk holds a few well-worn books, Pushkin's poetry, a French grammar primer, a dogged copy of Alice in Wonderland. There's a single icon in the corner, its gold leaf catching the light, and beneath it, a small vase with a sprig of dried lavender. The walls are bare except for a few pencil sketches pinned neatly. A horse, a landscape, a caricature of a stern tutor. This isn't the lavish chamber of a princess from a fairy tale. This is the room of a teenager, albeit one whose father ruled over 1/6 of the world's landmass. Historians still argue whether this austerity was a deliberate pedagogical choice by Empress Alexandra, a reflection of her own reserved nature, or simply the practical reality of raising 4 girls close in age. Either way, you feel it, the intentionality. Every object here has a purpose, every space a reason. You move quietly to Tatiana's room, adjacent and nearly identical. The same white iron bed, the same simple desk. But here you notice a small sewing basket tucked neatly beneath the chair, threads of embroidery floss peeking from its lid. A pair of reading glasses rests on the desk, though Tatiana was known for her sharp eyes. Maybe they were for show. Or maybe they were borrowed from a governess and never returned. You smile at the thought. The air smells faintly of beeswax and old paper, with just a hint of the lavender soap the sisters all used. It's a clean, calm scent, the kind that makes your shoulders drop, without you even realizing they were tense. You run your fingers along the edge of the wooden chair back. The wood is smooth from years of use, polished by countless small hands. You can almost hear the rustle of cotton nightgowns, the soft thud of a book closing, the quiet murmur of a bedtime prayer whispered in Russian, English, and French, all the languages that filled their days. Maria's room feels a touch warmer, somehow. Maybe it's the slightly brighter shade of the curtain fabric, or the way a sunbeam happens to fall across the floorboards at this hour. Her desk holds a small collection of pressed flowers between the pages of a diary, their colours faded to soft ghosts of purple and yellow. A stuffed dog, well-loved and slightly threadbare, sits propped against the pillow. You remember that Maria was known for her gentle heart, her love of animals, her easy laughter. It's there in the room, in the careful placement of these small treasures. And then there's Anastasia's space. Ah, Anastasia, the youngest, the mischief maker. Her room holds the same simple furniture, but there's a playful energy here. A sketch of a cat with exaggerated whiskers tacked to the wall. A hidden drawer in the desk that you just know holds a stash of forbidden sweets or a smuggled comic sketch of a stern Grand Duke. You can almost hear her giggle, quick and bright, bouncing off these hushed walls. It's a fringe tidbit, But some palace staff recalled that Anastasia once hid a live frog in her sister's bed as a prank. You can't help but chuckle softly. Even in imperial confines, the universal language of sisterly teasing finds a way. You step back into the shared sitting area of the nursery wing. This is where the magic of OTMA truly lived. 4 names, 4 personalities, but 1 unit. Olga, the thoughtful leader; Tatiana, the capable organizer; Maria, the compassionate heart; Anastasia, the spirited spark. You sink into a small sofa, its cushions still holding the shape of countless afternoons spent reading aloud, sharing secrets, or simply resting in comfortable silence. The bond between them wasn't just familial, it was strategic, emotional, a fortress they built together against the pressures of their extraordinary lives. They signed their letters with the acronym OTMA, sometimes adding a little crown or a flower, a secret code that said, "We are together." You feel that closeness now in the quiet of this room. It's not a loud, dramatic bond. It's in the shared glance, the finished sentence, the way one sister would straighten another's collar without a word. It's in the identical white cotton dresses they wore for morning lessons, the simple uniform that erased hierarchy and emphasized unity. You notice the light changing outside the tall windows. The pale gold of late afternoon softens to a dusky blue. Shadows lengthen across the floor, creeping toward the simple beds. The palace, for all its grandeur elsewhere, feels intimate here, protective. You think about the world beyond these walls, the glittering balls, the political tensions, the whispers of change stirring across Russia. But in this nursery, in this moment, none of that exists. There is only the soft scratch of a pencil on paper, the gentle turn of a page, the distant chime of a clock marking the hour. You breathe in and the air feels still, safe. The Grand Duchesses aren't historical figures right now. They're just 4 sisters, sharing a space, growing up under the watchful eyes of parents who loved them deeply, even if that love was sometimes wrapped in duty and distance. You remember that the Alexander Palace was a favorite of Nicholas, and Alexandra precisely because it felt like a home, not just a seat of power. They chose simplicity for their children, perhaps hoping to ground them in values rather than vanity. It's a mainstream historical fact that the Romanov children had a relatively modest upbringing by royal standards: hard beds, cold baths, simple meals. But walking through these rooms, you feel the truth of it in your bones. This wasn't deprivation, it was a different kind of richness. The richness of routine, of closeness, of a childhood carved out of quiet moments rather than public spectacle. As you stand to leave the nursery wing, you take one last look. The rooms are empty now, of course, but for a heartbeat, you can almost see them. 4 figures in white, heads bent over a shared book, or laughing at a private joke. The hushed walls hold their echo, and as you step back into the corridor, the softness of that memory wraps around you like a blanket, pulling you gently deeper into the calm, into the story, into the quiet rhythm of their lives. You wake to the soft grey light of a Russian morning, the kind that filters through heavy curtains and paints the room in shades of pearl and mist. There's no blaring alarm, no frantic scrolling, just the gentle creak of a floorboard as a maid moves quietly in the hallway. You stretch beneath the crisp linen sheets, feeling the firm mattress that shaped young spines for strength, not indulgence. The air is cool, crisp with the scent of lavender soap and beeswax polish that seems to linger in the very walls of the Alexander Palace. You swing your legs over the side of the bed, and your feet meet the cool wooden floor. It's a shock, just for a second, that wakes you up more effectively than any cup of coffee ever could. You pad over to the washstand where a porcelain basin sits waiting, filled with cold water drawn from the palace wells just minutes ago. The water is bracing, almost startlingly so, but there's a clarity to it that feels purifying. You splash it on your face, and the chill sends a shiver down your spine that sharpens your senses. The soap is simple, unscented except for that faint lavender note, and it lathers into a soft foam that rinses clean without residue. You dry your face with a towel that's been neatly folded, its edges starched just enough to feel crisp against your skin. This morning ritual wasn't just about cleanliness, it was a meditation, a moment of quiet preparation for the day ahead. Mainstream historical accounts confirm that the Romanov children were raised with an emphasis on discipline and simplicity, and this cold water routine was a cornerstone of that philosophy. You can almost hear the gentle admonition of their governess, A clear mind begins with a clear face, Your Highness. As you dress, you reach for the identical white cotton dress that hangs on the simple wooden hook. The fabric is soft from countless washes, but it still carries that faint stiffness of starch that rustles softly as you pull it over your head. The dress is modest, high-necked, with long sleeves and a straight skirt that falls to mid-calf. There are no frills, no lace, no embellishments, just pure practical cotton. You button it up the back, fumbling slightly with the small pearl buttons, and you understand why the sisters often helped each other with this task. It's a small act of cooperation, a silent acknowledgement that even in the most privileged of lives, some things are easier with a little help. You smooth the skirt down, feeling the fabric settle around you. The simplicity is liberating, in a way. There's no decision to be made about what to wear, no worry about fashion or appearance. Just purity, uniformity, unity. You move to the small mirror above the washstand. Your reflection is soft in the morning light, your hair still slightly tousled from sleep. You pick up the bone-handled brush and begin to work through the tangles, starting at the ends and moving gently upward. The rhythmic sound of the bristles against your hair is soothing, almost hypnotic. You remember that the Grand Duchesses were known for their long, beautiful hair. Olga's chestnut waves, Tatiana's sleek dark locks, Maria's golden curls, Anastasia's playful chestnut tresses. But here, in the privacy of the morning, it's just hair to be cared for, not a crown to be adorned. You part it neatly down the middle, as was the style, and braid it simply, securing the end with a plain white ribbon. No jewels, no elaborate updos, just practicality and grace. The scent of breakfast begins to drift in from the corridor. Warm bread, soft-boiled eggs, the faint aroma of black tea. But before you join the others, there's a moment of quiet preparation. You straighten the simple cross that hangs around your neck, a gift from your mother, and you take a deep breath. The day ahead will be filled with lessons in languages, history, mathematics, with embroidery practice, with walks in the palace gardens. But for now, there's just this: the cool air on your freshly washed skin, the soft rustle of cotton, the gentle rhythm of your own breathing. It's a moment of peace, a pocket of calm before the demands of imperial life begin. You step into the hallway, where the soft murmur of your sisters' voices greets you. They're gathered in the small sitting area, already dressed in their identical white dresses, their hair neatly braided. There's a comfortable silence as you join them, a sense of shared routine that needs no words. Olga looks up from the book she's reading and offers a small smile. Tatiana is carefully folding a handkerchief, her movements precise and deliberate. Maria hums a soft tune under her breath, while Anastasia makes a silly face that only you can see, causing you to bite back a laugh. This is the magic of OTMA, not just sisterhood, but a seamless, unspoken synchronization. You all move together toward the breakfast room, your footsteps soft on the runner, the rustle of your cotton dresses, creating a gentle rhythmic sound that seems to echo the quiet heartbeat of the palace. Breakfast is simple: dark rye bread, butter, soft-boiled eggs in porcelain cups, and strong black tea poured from a silver samovar that gleams in the morning light. You sit at the small table, the wood smooth and worn from years of use. The conversation is light, a mix of Russian, English, and French flowing effortlessly between you. You discuss the day's lessons, plan a walk in the gardens, share a quiet joke about a stern tutor. It's ordinary in the most extraordinary of circumstances. And that's the point. Despite the weight of their titles, the Grand Duchesses were encouraged to find joy in the simple, the everyday. Historians still argue whether this emphasis on normalcy was a conscious effort to prepare them for potential hardships, or simply the natural inclination of parents who wanted their children to have as grounded a childhood as possible. Either way, you feel its effect now: the comfort of routine, the warmth of shared moments, the quiet strength that comes from knowing you're not alone. As you finish your tea, you notice a small, quirky detail on the table. A tiny, hand-painted porcelain egg, no bigger than a thimble, tucked beside the sugar bowl. It's a Fabergé miniature, a whimsical touch that seems almost out of place among the simple breakfast things. You pick it up gently, feeling its smooth, cool surface. It's a reminder that even in a life of austerity, beauty and artistry could find a way to bloom. Some palace accounts mention that the children received small, handmade gifts like this from devoted artisans, tiny tokens of affection that didn't contradict their simple upbringing, but added a whisper of wonder to it. You place the egg back carefully, a secret smile on your lips. The morning light grows stronger now, streaming through the tall windows and painting golden squares on the polished floor. You rise from the table, and the sisters follow suit, moving with the quiet efficiency of those who know their schedule by heart. There's no rush, no frantic scrambling, just a smooth, graceful transition from one part of the day to the next. You feel the soft cotton of your dress against your skin, the cool air on your freshly washed face, the gentle weight of the simple cross at your throat. These sensations aren't just physical, they're anchors, grounding you in the present moment, in the quiet rhythm of a life that, despite its extraordinary circumstances, finds beauty in the ordinary. As you head toward the schoolroom for your first lesson, you pause for a moment at the window. Outside, the palace gardens are waking up. Dew glistens on the roses, birds flit between the trees, and the distant sound of a fountain provides a soft, constant murmur. You take it all in, this peaceful snapshot of a morning at the Alexander Palace. The cold water, the starched cotton, the shared breakfast, the quiet laughter. It all blends into a tapestry of calm, a lullaby of routine that soothes the soul. You carry this feeling with you as you continue down the hallway. The soft rustle of your dress a gentle soundtrack to your steps. The day ahead may hold challenges, lessons, duties, but for now, in this soft morning light, there is only peace. And as you settle into your chair in the schoolroom, the scent of lavender and old paper wrapping around you like a comforting embrace, you feel yourself drifting deeper into the calm, into the story, into the quiet, enduring rhythm of their lives. You settle into the schoolroom, the morning light now fully bright, casting long, gentle shadows across the wooden floor. The desk before you is smooth and worn, its surface marked by the gentle scratches of countless lessons past. You run your fingers along the edge, feeling the history in the wood, the same wood that once supported the elbows of 4 young Grand Duchesses as they bent over their textbooks, their pencils scratching softly against paper. The air smells of ink, old books, and the faint, clean scent of lemon oil used to polish the furniture. It's a comforting blend, one that speaks of order, of learning, of quiet industry. You glance around the room. Olga sits to your left, her posture perfect, her brow slightly furrowed in concentration as she works through a French translation. Tatiana is beside her, methodically solving a mathematics problem, her movements precise and unhurried. Maria is sketching in the margin of her notebook, a delicate flower, its petals rendered with surprising detail, while Anastasia, ever the imp, is trying to balance her pencil on its tip, her eyes sparkling with mischief. You watch her for a moment, and she catches your eye, grinning before quickly returning to her task, though you notice the pencil is now tapping a silent, playful rhythm against the desk. This is the OTMA dynamic in action. 4 distinct personalities, 4 unique gifts, but one seamless unit. You feel it in the air, this unspoken bond that doesn't need declaration. It just is. The lesson today is history, and the governess, a kind-faced woman with gentle eyes, is speaking about the reign of Peter the Great. Her voice is soft, melodic, weaving facts into stories that make the past feel alive. You listen, but your attention keeps drifting to the sisters. You notice how Olga will occasionally glance at Tatiana when a difficult question is asked, a silent check-in. How Tatiana will subtly slide a helpful note toward Maria if she seems confused. How Maria will offer a reassuring smile to Anastasia when she fidgets. And how Anastasia, in her own playful way, will lighten the mood with a perfectly timed, whispered comment that makes them all suppress a giggle. It's a dance of support, of quiet understanding. They aren't just sisters, they're teammates, confidantes, co-conspirators in the beautiful, complicated adventure of growing up Romanov. You remember that they sign their letters and diary entries with the acronym OTMA, sometimes adding a little crown, a flower, or a cross. It was more than a shortcut. It was a symbol of their unity, a secret code that said, "We are together, always." Mainstream historical records show that this bond was their anchor throughout their lives, a source of strength during times of pressure and change. You can see why. In a world where every move was watched, every word potentially reported, having 3 others who understood you completely was a priceless gift. You pick up your own pencil, and for a moment you imagine writing A in the corner of your page. The letters feel significant, weighted with meaning. O for Olga, the thoughtful eldest. Tita, the capable second. The M for Maria, the gentle heart. A for Anastasia, the spirited youngest. Together they formed an unbreakable circle. The lesson ends with the soft chime of the palace clock marking the hour. The governess dismisses you with a gentle nod, and the sisters gather their things with quiet efficiency. But instead of heading straight to the next activity, they linger for a moment in the sun-dappled corner of the schoolroom. Anastasia pulls a small folded piece of paper from her pocket, a sketch she made of the history tutor, exaggerating his prominent nose and bushy eyebrows. She shows it to the others, and they lean in, their shoulders touching, their laughter soft and muffled, the kind of laughter that's shared, not performed. It's a fringe tidbit, but some accounts from palace staff mention that the Grand Duchesses kept a private album of such playful caricatures, a secret collection of humour that lightened the formality of their days. You can almost see the album now, its pages filled with lovingly drawn jokes, a testament to their ability to find joy in the small, the silly, the shared. You join them in their circle, and the conversation flows easily, a mix of Russian, English and French, the languages of their world. They discuss the morning's lesson, plan which path to take for their afternoon walk in the gardens, debate whether to read aloud from a new book or work on their embroidery projects. There's no hierarchy here, no deference to title. Just four young women sharing thoughts, dreams, and the occasional silly worry. Olga suggests they write a joint letter to their mother later, and the others agree, already brainstorming what to include. The blooming lilacs, the new kitten in the stables, the funny thing the French tutor said. It's ordinary in the most extraordinary of lives. And that ordinariness is their sanctuary. Historians still argue whether the intense closeness of the OTMA sisterhood was a natural outcome of their isolated upbringing, or a conscious strategy developed to navigate the unique pressures of their imperial status. Some suggest that their parents encouraged this bond as a source of mutual support. Others believe it was simply the organic result of four girls spending nearly every moment together, shielded from the outside world. As you sit with them now, listening to their easy banter, feeling the warmth of their companionship, it doesn't really matter which theory is correct. What matters is the reality of it. This bond is real, it is deep, and it is their fortress. The afternoon light begins to soften, turning golden as it streams through the tall windows. You rise with the sisters, and together you move toward the palace gardens. The air outside is fresh, scented with blooming jasmine and freshly cut grass. You walk along the gravel path, the sound of your footsteps a soft, rhythmic crunch. The sisters point out familiar sights, the rose arbor where they sometimes read, the bench by the fountain where they share secrets, the hidden path that leads to a quiet grove of birch trees. You notice how they move as one, their steps synchronized, their conversation a gentle murmur that blends with the birdsong and the distant sound of the fountain. It's a picture of harmony, of peace. You pause by a bed of vibrant purple irises, their petals velvety in the soft light. Maria kneels to admire them, her fingers gently brushing a bloom. "They're so brave," she says softly, "to bloom so beautifully, even when no one is watching." The others nod, understanding the unspoken sentiment. It's a moment quiet reflection, a shared appreciation for beauty that exists for its own sake. You feel it too. The simple joy of being present, of noticing the small wonders that surround you. In a life filled with duty and expectation, these moments of unstructured beauty are precious. As you continue your walk, Anastasia spots a butterfly, a delicate white creature with black-tipped wings, fluttering among the flowers. She points it out, and they all watch, still and silent, as it dances from bloom to bloom. For a moment, everything else fades away. There is no empire, no revolution looming on the horizon, no weight of history. There is only this: four sisters, a butterfly, and the golden light of a Russian afternoon. It's a snapshot of peace, a memory etched in light and laughter. You know, even as you live it, that moments like these are fleeting. But that's what makes them so precious. They are the quiet beats in the symphony of their lives, the soft notes that sustain them through the louder, more challenging movements. You head back toward the palace as the light begins to deepen, the sky painting itself in hues of rose and lavender. The sisters' conversation turns to evening plans, a simple supper, perhaps some music, a quiet hour of reading before bed. There's a comfort in the predictability of it, a soothing rhythm to the day's end. You feel the soft cotton of your dress against your skin, the gentle coolness of the evening air, the lingering warmth of shared laughter. These sensations wrap around you like a soft blanket, pulling you deeper into the calm, into the story. As you step back into the hushed corridors of the Alexander Palace, the rustle of your dresses echoing softly, you realize something profound. The OTMA bond isn't just about sisterhood, it's about resilience. It's about finding strength in unity, joy in simplicity, and peace in the present moment. It's about creating a private world of love and laughter within the walls of a very public life. And as you follow the sisters toward the evening's quiet activities, the soft glow of the palace lamps guiding your way, you carry that feeling with you, a sense of calm, of connection, of enduring grace. The day winds down, the palace settles into its evening hush, and you feel yourself drifting, gently, peacefully, into the next chapter of their story, cradled by the quiet strength of four names bound together, OTMA. The air changes as you step outside the palace walls. It's warmer here, softer, carrying the scent of blooming linden trees and salt from the nearby sea. The sun, high and generous, filters through the canopy of ancient oaks, dappling the gravel path with shifting patterns of light and shadow. You feel the warmth on your skin, a gentle contrast to the cool mornings inside the Alexander Palace. And there, leaning against a stone pillar, are four bicycles, simple, sturdy machines with wicker baskets attached to their handlebars. They're not the ornate, jeweled contraptions you might imagine for royalty. They're practical, meant for use, for freedom, for the simple joy of movement. You walk over and run your hand along the smooth leather of the saddle. It's supple, well cared for, and you notice the faint scent of oil and polish that clings to the metal frame. Olga is already mounted, adjusting the strap of her sun hat with a practiced hand. Tatiana checks the tire pressure with a gentle squeeze, her movements efficient and sure. Maria is arranging a small picnic basket, just a few slices of dark bread, some cheese, and a flask of cold tea, while Anastasia, ever impatient, gives her pedals an experimental spin, the soft whir of the chain breaking the afternoon quiet. You climb onto your own bicycle, feeling the familiar weight of it beneath you. The handlebars are cool against your palms, and you settle into the seat, your feet finding the pedals with ease. There's a moment of shared anticipation, a silent count of 3, and then you're off. The path unfolds before you, a ribbon of pale gravel winding through the meticulously tended gardens of Peterhof. You pedal at a leisurely pace, the rhythm of your breathing syncing with the gentle click of the freewheel. The sisters ride alongside you, their white cotton dresses, slightly less formal now with shorter sleeves for the summer heat, fluttering softly in the breeze. Sunlight catches in their hair, turning Olga's chestnut waves to copper, Tatiana's dark locks to polished ebony, Maria's golden curls to spun light, and Anastasia's playful tresses to a lively auburn. They laugh, a sound as light and sparkling as the fountain spray you pass, and you feel that laughter lifts something in your chest. This isn't duty, this isn't protocol, this is just joy. You follow the path as it dips into a shaded grove, the air instantly cooler, scented with damp earth and pine needles. The sound of your wheels on the gravel softens here, muffled by the thick carpet of fallen needles. Birds chirp overhead, hidden in the dense foliage, and for a moment you forget you're in the grounds of an imperial palace. It feels like any summer afternoon, anywhere in the world, where friends escape the confines of indoors for the simple pleasure of motion and fresh air. Mainstream historical accounts confirm that the Romanov children were avid cyclists and that Peterhof and Livadia offered them rare opportunities for unstructured play and physical activity. You can feel why they loved it. The freedom of the open path, the wind in your face, the sense of adventure that comes with turning a corner to see what lies ahead. The path opens up again, and suddenly you're alongside the Gulf of Finland. The Baltic Sea stretches before you, a vast expanse of shimmering blue-green, dotted with the white sails of distant boats. The breeze here is stronger, carrying the crisp, clean scent of salt and seaweed. You slow your pace, letting the sisters pull slightly ahead as you take in the view. The water laps gently against the rocky shore, a soothing rhythmic sound that seems to slow time itself. You notice a small secluded cove just ahead, its sandy beach hidden from the main palace grounds by a curve of land. Anastasia spots it too, and with a mischievous grin, she veers off the path, leading the way down a narrow, overgrown trail. You follow, the branches of low-hanging pines brushing softly against your arms. The trail opens onto the cove, a perfect little pocket of paradise. The sand is pale and fine, warm from the afternoon sun. The water is clear, shallow near the revealing smooth, multicolored stones beneath the surface. Without a word, the sisters begin to unlace their simple canvas shoes, rolling up the hems of their dresses to their knees. You do the same, feeling the cool, soft sand between your toes. It's a grounding sensation, connecting you to the earth, to the moment. Maria wades in first, her laughter ringing out as the water touches her ankles. The others follow, and soon you're all standing in the gentle surf, the cool water a refreshing shock against your skin. You splash each other playfully, the water droplets catching the sunlight like tiny diamonds. There's no concern for propriety here, no worry about soaking a royal garment, just the simple, universal joy of cooling off on a warm day. You remember that the Grand Duchesses were known to enjoy swimming in the Baltic, a pastime that was both refreshing and quietly rebellious in an era when such activities for young women of their status were still somewhat unconventional. It's a fringe tidbit, but some palace diaries mention that they sometimes collected small, perfect shells from these very shores, keeping them in a special box as treasures of their summer days. You bend down and pick up a small spiral shell, its surface smooth and pearlescent. You hold it in your palm for a moment, feeling its cool weight, before slipping it into your pocket. A quiet souvenir of this perfect afternoon. As you wade back to shore, the sun beginning its slow descent toward the horizon, you notice how the light has changed. It's softer now, golden, casting long, gentle shadows across the sand. The sisters spread a simple blanket on the dry sand, and you settle onto it, the warmth of the sun still lingering in the fabric. Maria opens the picnic basket, and you share the simple fare: bread, cheese, cold tea poured into small tin cups. It's not a grand feast, but it tastes better than any banquet you can imagine. The flavors are clean, honest, enhanced by the fresh air and the satisfaction of a good ride. You sip your tea, feeling its coolness soothe your throat, and you watch as Anastasia draws a picture in the sand with a stick. A whimsical scene of the four of them on bicycles, with exaggerated smiles and flying hair. The conversation is light, meandering. They talk about the books they're reading, the flowers blooming in the palace gardens, the amusing antics of the palace cats. There's no discussion of politics, no mention of the tensions simmering in the cities beyond their sanctuary. For this afternoon at least, the world is just this: the sea, the sun, the sand, and each other. Historians still argue whether these idyllic summer interludes were a deliberate buffer against the pressures of their public lives, or simply the natural result of a family seeking moments of normalcy. As you sit with them now, listening to the gentle rhythm of their voices blending with the sound of the waves, it doesn't matter. What matters is the reality of the peace they've created, however fleeting. You lie back on the blanket, the sand soft beneath you, and gaze up at the sky. It's a canvas of soft blues and pinks, streaked with wispy clouds that glow in the setting sun. A few seabirds circle overhead, their cries distant and melodic. You feel the warmth of the sun on your face, the gentle breeze cooling your skin, the comforting presence of the sisters nearby. It's a moment of pure, unadulterated calm. You close your eyes for a heartbeat, just listening, to the waves, to the laughter, to the quiet rustle of cotton in the breeze. When you open them again, the sun is lower, painting the water in shades of gold and rose. It's time to head back. You rise, brushing the sand from your dress, and the sisters do the same. You remount your bicycles, the frames still warm from the afternoon sun, and begin the gentle ride back through the parklands. The path is familiar now, but in the golden light of late afternoon it feels new, magical. Shadows stretch long across the gravel, and the air is filled with the scent of evening blooms, jasmine, honeysuckle, the sweet fragrance of linden trees in full flower. You pedal at a relaxed pace, letting the rhythm of the ride soothe you, letting the beauty of the surroundings wrap around you like a soft blanket. As you approach the palace, its golden domes glowing in the sunset, you feel a quiet gratitude for this afternoon. It wasn't grand or historic. It was simple, ordinary, perfect. And in that simplicity you found a profound sense of peace. You park your bicycle alongside the others, the soft click of the kickstand, a gentle punctuation to the day's adventure. The sisters exchange a look, a silent acknowledgement of the joy they've shared, and you feel included in that unspoken bond. You walk back toward the palace together, the cool evening air a refreshing contrast to the warmth of the afternoon, the soft rustle of your dresses a gentle soundtrack to your steps. The day is winding down, but the calm you've found lingers, a soft glow in your chest. You carry it with you as you step back into the hushed corridors of the palace. The memory of sun-dappled paths, cool seawater, and shared laughter a quiet anchor in the gentle drift toward evening. And as the first stars begin to prick the twilight sky, you feel yourself sinking deeper into the calm, into the story, into the enduring sun-warmed peace of a summer afternoon with the Grand Duchesses. The gravel path gives way to smooth wooden planks as you step onto the pier, the gentle lap of water against the pilings, creating a soft, rhythmic backdrop. The air here is different, sharper, cleaner, carrying the distinct scent of salt, tar, and the faint sweet aroma of blooming sea roses that cling to the nearby rocks. And there, bobbing gently at the dock, is the royal yacht, the Standard. She's elegant but not ostentatious, her white hull gleaming in the late afternoon sun, her decks polished to a soft sheen. You can hear the gentle creak of rigging, the soft flap of canvas in the breeze, and the distant call of a gull wheeling overhead. It's a sound that seems to slow your heartbeat, to pull you into a slower, more peaceful rhythm. You climb the gangplank, the wood solid and reassuring beneath your feet. The deck is spacious, uncluttered, with simple white canvas chairs arranged in small groups around low tables. The sisters are already there, settling into their seats with the easy grace of those familiar with this floating sanctuary. Olga is arranging a small bouquet of sea lavender in a crystal vase, her movements precise and gentle. Tatiana is checking the contents of a wicker hamper, ensuring everything is in its place. Maria is smoothing the linen tablecloth, her fingers brushing over the fine embroidery at the edges, while Anastasia peers over the railing, watching a school of small silvery fish dart through the clear water below. You find a seat among them, the canvas chair cool and comfortable against the back of your legs. A crew member approaches silently, bearing a silver tray. On it rests a porcelain tea service, delicate cups with a faint blue floral pattern, a matching teapot, a small pitcher of fresh milk, and a dish of sugar cubes that catch the light like tiny jewels. The tea itself is strong, black and fragrant, poured with a steady hand that doesn't spill a drop. You accept your cup, feeling its warmth seep into your palms. The porcelain is thin, almost translucent, and you handle it with care, aware of its fragility and its beauty. You add a single sugar cube, watching it dissolve slowly as you stir with a small silver spoon. The clink of metal against china is soft, musical, a sound that seems to belong to this moment alone. You take a sip and the tea is perfect, robust enough to wake the senses, but smooth enough to soothe. The Baltic breeze wraps around you, cool and invigorating, carrying with it the distant scent of pine forests from the shoreline and the clean, mineral tang of the sea. It lifts the fine hairs on your arms, rustles the pages of the book Olga has set beside her, and plays gently with the ribbons in Maria's hair. You lean back in your chair, letting the gentle rocking of the yacht cradle you. It's a subtle motion, barely perceptible, but it's there. A soft, rhythmic sway that feels like being rocked in a giant, peaceful cradle. Mainstream historical records confirm that the Romanov family cherished their time aboard the Standard, using these excursions as rare opportunities for relaxation and informal family time, away from the formality of the palace. You can feel why. Here on the water, with the horizon stretching endlessly before you, the weight of empire feels distant, manageable. The conversation flows as easily as the tea. It's light, meandering. Talk of the book Olga is reading, the new embroidery pattern Tatiana is trying, the amusing way the palace cat tried to chase a seagull that morning. There's no agenda, no pressure to be anything other than themselves. You notice how the sisters' shoulders are relaxed, their smiles genuine, their laughter unguarded. It's a side of them you rarely see in formal portraits. Their youth, their simplicity, their joy in the small shared moments. Anastasia points out a port breaking the surface a short distance away, its sleek back glistening in the sun before it disappears with a soft splash. They all watch, quiet for a moment, united in wonder. It's a fringe tidbit, but some crew logs from the Standard mention that the Grand Duchesses would sometimes toss small biodegradable treats overboard for the curious sea creatures, a quiet act of kindness that brought them simple delight. You imagine them doing just that, their faces alight with childlike joy as dolphins or porpoises play in the yacht's wake. You sip your tea, letting the warmth spread through you. The sun is beginning its descent, painting the sky in soft washes of peach, lavender and gold. The water reflects these colours, turning the Baltic into a shimmering canvas of light. You watch as the sisters' profiles are silhouetted against this breathtaking backdrop, their features softened by the golden hour light, their expressions peaceful. It's a moment that feels timeless, suspended. You remember that these yacht excursions were among the few times the Grand Duchesses could experience a semblance of normal teenage life, chatting, laughing, enjoying nature without the constant presence of formal protocol. Historians still argue whether these moments of levity were a conscious effort by their parents to provide emotional respite, or simply the natural outcome of a family seeking connection amidst their extraordinary circumstances. As you sit with them now, feeling the gentle rock of the yacht and hearing the soft murmur of their voices, it doesn't matter. What matters is the peace they've found, however brief. A soft chime signals the approach of evening, and the crew quietly begins to prepare for the return journey. But there's no rush, no sense of urgency. The sisters finish their tea at a leisurely pace, savouring the last drops, the last moments of this floating sanctuary. You place your cup back on its saucer with a soft click, the sound blending with the gentle lap of water against the hull. Maria gathers the empty cups, her movements graceful and unhurried, while Tatiana folds the linen napkins with precise, neat creases. It's a quiet ballet of routine, a shared understanding of how to care for the small things. You help Anastasia collect the stray sugar cubes that have tumbled onto the table, your fingers brushing against the cool porcelain of the dish. These small acts of cooperation, of shared responsibility, are part of the bond that holds OTMA together. They aren't grand gestures. They're the quiet, everyday moments that build a lifetime of trust and love. As the yacht begins to glide smoothly away from the dock, you stand and move to the railing, feeling the cool wood beneath your palms. The palace recedes in the distance, its golden domes catching the last rays of the sun like beacons. The shoreline is a soft blur of green and gold, dotted with the occasional white sail of a fishing boat. The breeze strengthens slightly, carrying the scent of evening blooms from the land and the deep, clean aroma of the open sea. You take a deep breath, filling your lungs with this perfect air. It's invigorating, clarifying. You feel the gentle vibration of the yacht's engines through the deck, a soft, steady hum that seems to resonate in your bones, lulling you into a state of calm alertness. You turn back to the sisters. They're gathered near the stern, watching the wake trail behind the yacht, a frothy, white path that slowly dissolves into the deep blue of the Baltic. Olga has her arm around Maria's shoulders. Tatiana is pointing out a distant lighthouse to Anastasia, who nods with keen interest. They're a portrait of sisterhood, of unity, of quiet strength. You feel a swell of affection for them, for this moment, for the simple, profound beauty of being together in peace. You remember that the Standard was more than just a yacht to them. It was a symbol of freedom, a place where they could breathe, dream, and just be. Mainstream accounts note that Nicholas II was an avid sailor and that these maritime excursions were a cherished family tradition. You can feel that tradition in the air, the respect for the sea, the appreciation for its beauty and its power, the quiet joy of moving across its surface under a wide open sky. The light softens further as the sun dips below the horizon, leaving behind a sky ablaze with colour. The first stars begin to appear, tiny pinpricks of light in the deepening blue. The yacht's deck lights are lit, casting a soft, warm glow that creates pools of intimacy in the gathering twilight. The air grows cooler, and you're grateful for the light shawl that a thoughtful crew member has draped over the back of your chair. You wrap it around your shoulders, the soft wool a comforting weight. The sisters do the same, their movements synchronized as if they share a single mind. You sip the last of your tea, now cool but still flavorful, and you feel a deep sense of contentment settle over you. It's not excitement, it's not drama, it's something quieter, deeper, peace. As the yacht approaches the dock once more, its approach smooth and silent, you feel a gentle reluctance to leave this floating sanctuary. But the calm you've found here doesn't vanish as you step back onto solid ground. It stays with you, a soft glow in your chest, a quiet rhythm in your breath. You walk back toward the palace alongside the sisters, the cool evening air refreshing, the scent of night-blooming jasmine sweet in the darkness. The day has been full of simple pleasures. The ride through the park, the swim in the cove, the tea on the water, and each one has woven another thread into the tapestry of peace you're carrying with you. You pause for a moment at the palace gates, looking back at the Standard, now a dark silhouette against the starry sky, her lights reflecting softly on the water. You feel a quiet gratitude for this afternoon, for the gift of ordinary joy in an extraordinary life. The sisters exchange a soft goodnight, their voices gentle in the hush of evening, and you feel included in that quiet ritual. You walk back toward your room, the soft rustle of your cotton dress a familiar, comforting sound. The day is ending, but the calm you've found lingers, a soft lullaby in your heart. And as you settle into the quiet of the palace night, the memory of clinking porcelain, Baltic breezes, and shared laughter wraps around you like a soft blanket, pulling you gently, peacefully, deeper into the story, deeper into the calm, deeper into the enduring sea-salted peace of a royal yacht at sunset. The golden haze of summer begins to soften at the edges, the days growing shorter, the light taking on a cooler, more amber quality. You notice it first in the mornings, the chill in the air that makes you reach for a light shawl before stepping onto the palace terrace. The sisters notice it too. There's a subtle shift in their rhythm, a quiet tightening of focus that wasn't there during the carefree afternoons of cycling and sailing. You're walking with them through the palace corridors now, and the conversation has changed. It's still warm, still sisterly, but there's a new undercurrent. A discussion of upcoming public engagements, of charity visits, of the proper way to greet dignitaries from foreign courts. The white cotton dresses are still there, but now they're accompanied by simpler, more formal attire. High-necked wool dresses in muted blues and greys, practical boots for walking, gloves that are always clean, always neatly folded in a pocket. You pause in a sunlit antechamber as Olga practices a formal greeting, her posture straightening, her expression softening into the gentle, attentive smile expected of a Grand Duchess. Tatiana stands beside her, offering quiet corrections, a slight adjustment to the angle of a curtsy, a reminder to maintain eye contact without staring. Maria watches intently, then tries the gesture herself, her natural grace making it look effortless, while Anastasia, ever the imp, adds a playful flourish that makes them all suppress a giggle before composing themselves again. It's a rehearsal, but it's also a ritual, a gentle, loving preparation for the roles they are beginning to assume. Mainstream historical accounts confirm that as the Romanov Grand Duchesses entered their late teens, they gradually took on more public duties, representing the imperial family at charitable events, hospital visits, and ceremonial occasions. You can feel the weight of that transition now, not as a burden but as a quiet responsibility they accept with grace. The palace itself seems to change with the season. The bright, airy rooms of summer give way to warmer, more intimate spaces as the windows are sealed against the coming chill. The scent of wood smoke from the fireplaces mingles with the familiar lavender and beeswax, creating a cozier, more contemplative atmosphere. You join the sisters in the palace library, where shelves of leather-bound books line the walls, and a large globe sits in the corner, its surface marked with the places their father has visited, the nations with which Russia maintains ties. Olga is studying a map of the Balkans, her finger tracing a border with quiet concentration. Tatiana is reading a report on public health initiatives, her brow furrowed in thoughtful consideration. Maria is sorting through letters from charitable organizations, her gentle expression reflecting her compassion, while Anastasia is sketching a design for a new embroidery pattern that might be used for items to be sold at a charity bazaar. It's a scene of quiet industry, of young women preparing themselves for service. You remember that the Grand Duchesses were raised with a strong sense of duty, instilled by both their parents and their tutors. It wasn't just about protocol, it was about purpose. They were taught that their privilege came with responsibility, that their position was an opportunity to serve, not just to be served. As you sit with them now, listening to their discussions about upcoming projects, a fundraiser for wounded soldiers, a visit to a school for underprivileged children, the preparation of care packages for remote villages, you feel that sense of purpose radiating from them. It's not dramatic, it's not loud. It's a quiet, steady commitment that feels as natural to them as breathing. Historians still argue whether this emphasis on public service was a genuine reflection of the sisters' personal values, or a carefully cultivated image designed to bolster the monarchy's popularity during a time of growing social unrest. As you watch them work, their heads bent together over a shared document, their voices low and earnest, it's hard to see it as anything but sincere. There's a quirky detail you notice on Maria's desk. A small hand-carved wooden bird, its wings slightly spread as if about to take flight. It's a simple thing, unadorned, but it sits prominently among her papers. You learn later that it was a gift from a young patient she visited at a children's hospital. A token of gratitude from a child who couldn't afford anything more elaborate. Maria keeps it as a reminder of why she does this work, of the real people behind the formal titles and public appearances. It's a fringe tidbit, but it speaks volumes about the personal connections the sisters forged in their charitable roles, connections that mattered more to them than any official commendation. You pick up the little bird, feeling the smooth wood worn by gentle handling, and you place it back with care, a small smile on your lips. The light in the library begins to fade as afternoon turns to evening, and the sisters rise to prepare for a formal dinner. But even this routine has changed. The simple white dresses of childhood are set aside for more elegant, though still modest, evening attire. You help Maria fasten the small pearl buttons at the back of her gown, the fabric soft and heavy in your hands. The dress is beautiful, deep blue velvet with delicate silver embroidery along the neckline, but it's not ostentatious. It's dignified, appropriate, a reflection of the role she is stepping into. As you step back, you see her reflection in the mirror. She looks older somehow. Not in years, but in presence. There's a calm confidence in her eyes, a quiet strength that wasn't as visible during the carefree days of summer. You see it in the others too. Olga's thoughtful poise, Tatiana's capable grace, Anastasia's spirited charm now tempered with a newfound maturity. They are still themselves, still sisters, still OTMA. But they are also becoming something more. Public figures, representatives of an empire. Young women navigating the complex space between personal identity and public expectation. You walk with them to the dining room. The soft rustle of their gowns, a gentle soundtrack to your steps. The table is set with the same simple elegance that characterizes their private lives. Fine porcelain, polished silver, crystal glasses that catch the candlelight. But the atmosphere is more formal. Conversation is still warm, still familial, but there's an awareness of being observed, of the need to maintain a certain decorum. You notice how the sisters navigate this with ease, shifting seamlessly between relaxed sisterly banter and the more measured tones required for public moments. It's a skill they've honed over years, a balance they've learned to strike without losing themselves in the process. Mainstream historical records note that the Romanov children were trained from a young age in the art of public presentation, but that their parents also encouraged them to retain their authenticity, to let their genuine personalities shine through the formality. You can see that balance in action now. The way Olga's thoughtful questions engage a visiting diplomat, the way Tatiana's quiet competence puts a nervous guest at ease, the way Maria's compassionate smile comforts someone who's had a difficult day, the way Anastasia's well-timed humor lightens a tense moment. As the evening winds down and the sisters retreat to the privacy of their sitting room, you feel the shift in the air once more. The formal masks soften, the relaxed shoulders return, and the easy laughter flows again. They gather around the fireplace, shedding the heavier layers of their evening gowns for simpler wraps, and the conversation turns back to the personal. The book Olga is reading, the new embroidery stitch Tatiana is mastering, the funny thing the palace cat did that afternoon. It's a reminder that beneath the public roles, beneath the duties and expectations, they are still four young women who love each other, who share secrets, who find joy in the small, ordinary moments. You sink into a comfortable chair, feeling the warmth of the fire on your skin, and you listen to their voices, a soft, soothing murmur in the quiet room. The transition from play to public duty isn't a sudden leap. It's a gentle slope, a gradual awakening to the responsibilities that come with their birth. And as you sit with them now, in the soft glow of the firelight, you understand that this isn't about losing their childhood. It's about expanding it, about learning to carry their grace, their compassion, their sisterhood into a wider world. The shadows that gather on the horizon, the social unrest, the political tensions, the whispers of change sweeping across Russia, are still distant, still abstract. But the sisters meet them not with fear, but with preparation, with faith, with the quiet strength that comes from knowing they have each other. You feel that strength now, a calm, steady presence that wraps around you like a soft blanket. As the fire crackles softly and the palace settles into its evening hush, you feel yourself drifting deeper into the calm, into the story. The day has been full of subtle transitions, of quiet growth, of the gentle but firm acceptance of duty. And through it all, the bond of OTMA remains the constant, the anchor, the source of peace. You carry that feeling with you as the night deepens, as the stars wheel silently overhead, as the palace dreams around you. The journey continues, the story unfolds, but for now, in this moment of quiet reflection, there is only peace. And as you close your eyes, listening to the soft, rhythmic breathing of the sisters nearby, you feel yourself sinking gently, peacefully, into the next chapter of their lives, cradled by the enduring, duty-tempered calm of young women stepping gracefully into their roles. The air in the palace has changed. It's no longer just lavender and beeswax, no longer just the soft scent of blooming gardens carried on a summer breeze. Now, beneath those familiar notes, there's something sharper, cleaner, the crisp, antiseptic smell of carbolic soap, the faint metallic tang of sterilized instruments, the quiet, steady presence of purpose. You walk down a corridor you've traversed countless times, but today the destination is different. The schoolroom, the gardens, the yacht. They feel like memories from another life. Today you're heading to the Palace Hospital Wing, a space that has been transformed from a formal receiving room into a place of healing, of service, of quiet sacrifice. You pause at the door, taking a breath. On the other side, you know, the sisters are already at work. Olga and Tatiana, the elder two, have been training for weeks under the guidance of experienced nurses and doctors. Maria and Anastasia, though younger, have found their own ways to contribute, their roles tailored to their ages and abilities, but no less meaningful. You push the door open gently, and the scene before you is one of focused calm. The room is bright, clean, filled with the soft, natural light that filters through tall windows draped in simple white curtains. Rows of neatly made beds line the walls, each with a small bedside table holding a glass of water, a fresh handkerchief, a single flower in a slender vase. The floor is polished wood, easy to clean, and the only sounds are the soft rustle of cotton uniforms, the gentle murmur of reassurance, the occasional quiet click of a medical instrument being placed back on a tray. And there they are, the Grand Duchesses, but not as you remember them from the sun-dappled afternoons of Peterhof. Their hair is pulled back neatly, secured under simple white caps that frame their faces with modesty. Their dresses are gone, replaced by the sombre, practical uniforms of the Red Cross, made of sturdy cotton that can withstand frequent washing. The fabric is crisp, clean, and yes, a little stiff, but it carries a dignity that no ball gown ever could. You watch as Tatiana moves between the beds, her movements precise, efficient, but never hurried. She checks a patient's bandage, her touch gentle but confident, her voice low and reassuring as she asks about his pain. Olga is at a small table, carefully preparing a dose of medicine, her concentration absolute. Her hands steady as she measures the liquid with a glass pipette. They look older now, not just in years but in spirit. There's a gravity to their presence, a quiet strength that seems to emanate from within. You step further into the room and Maria spots you. She offers a small, warm smile, the same gentle expression you remember from the gardens, but now it carries a new depth, a new understanding. She finishes adjusting a pillow for a young soldier, her fingers fluffing the linen with a tenderness that seems to ease more than just physical discomfort, before she walks over to greet you. "It's different, isn't it?" she says softly, her voice barely above a whisper so as not to disturb the patients. "But it's good. It feels right." You nod, understanding exactly what she means. This isn't the life they were born into, not the one they might have imagined as children. But it's a life of meaning, of service, of connection to the real human cost of the conflict that has engulfed their nation. Mainstream historical accounts confirm that Olga and Tatiana trained as certified nurses during the First World War, working in military hospitals established on the palace grounds, while Maria and Anastasia assisted in lighter duties, visiting wards, writing letters for wounded soldiers, and organizing small comforts. You can feel that commitment in the air, in the quiet industry of the room. You follow Tatiana as she makes her rounds, and you notice the details you might have missed before. The way she always washes her hands thoroughly before and after touching a patient, the careful way she handles bandages to avoid causing pain, the way she remembers small details, a soldier's hometown, his favorite food, the name of his dog, and asks about them, offering a moment of normalcy, of humanity, in the midst of suffering. It's not just medical care, it's emotional care. It's seeing the person, not just the wound. You remember that the Grand Duchesses were known for their compassion, for their ability to connect with people from all walks of life. Here, in this hospital wing, that compassion isn't a charming personality trait. It's a tool of healing, as vital as any medicine. Historians still argue whether the sisters' nursing work was primarily a genuine expression of their faith and values, or a strategic effort to improve the monarchy's image during a time of growing public discontent. As you watch Tatiana sit for a moment on the edge of a bed, listening patiently to an elderly soldier's story, her hand resting lightly on his arm, It's hard to see it as anything but heartfelt. There's a quirky detail you notice on one of the bedside tables, a small, clumsily carved wooden bird, similar to the one you saw on Maria's desk months ago, but this one is painted with bright, cheerful colours. A patient, a young farm boy from the countryside, made it for Maria during a quiet moment using whittled wood and scraps of paint. Maria keeps it on her own work table now, a reminder of the small, personal connections that make the hard work worthwhile. It's a fringe tidbit, but it speaks to the way the Grand Duchesses valued these humble tokens of gratitude. These moments of human connection that transcended rank and title. You pick it up gently, feeling the rough texture of the wood, the slightly uneven brushstrokes of the paint, and you place it back with care, a quiet smile on your lips. The morning progresses, and the rhythm of the hospital wing settles into a steady, soothing pulse. There's no drama here, no frantic emergencies, just the quiet, diligent work of care. You help Olga sort through a basket of clean linen, fabric soft and fresh in your hands. You assist Maria in delivering small cups of broth to patients who are too weak to feed themselves. The warmth of the liquid a simple comfort. You watch as Anastasia, her energy undimmed but now channeled into purpose, reads aloud from a book of gentle stories to a group of soldiers who are resting, her voice clear and expressive, her occasional playful inflection drawing soft chuckles from her audience. It's a different kind of performance, one that heals rather than entertains, and she excels at it. You feel a sense of peace in this room, a profound calm that comes not from idleness, but from meaningful action. As the midday sun reaches its peak, casting long, gentle rectangles of light across the floor, the sisters take a short break. They gather in a small antechamber just off the main ward, a quiet space with a simple table and a few chairs. They remove their caps for a moment, letting their hair down just enough to relieve the pressure, and they share a simple meal. Dark bread, cheese, apples and tea poured from a large communal thermos. The conversation is soft, tired but content. They talk about their patients, not with pity but with respect, with admiration for the courage they witness every day. They share small victories, a fever that broke, a wound that is healing well, a letter that brought joy to a lonely soldier. There's no complaining, no self-pity, just a quiet acknowledgement of the work and of each other. You sit with them, sharing the simple fare, feeling the warmth of their camaraderie, the strength of their shared purpose. You remember that the decision to serve as nurses wasn't made lightly. It required training, discipline, a willingness to confront suffering and death. But the sisters embraced it with a resolve that surprised even some of their tutors. They weren't playing at charity. They were committing to service. And as you sit with them now, in the quiet of their break, you understand that this commitment has changed them. It's matured them, deepened them, given them a perspective that no amount of palace protocol could provide. They've seen pain, yes. They've seen loss, but they've also seen resilience, gratitude, the profound strength of the human spirit. And they've learned that their role isn't to fix everything, but to be present, to offer comfort, to bear witness. It's a lesson that will serve them well in the days to come, days that grow darker by the week. The break ends, and the sisters return to their duties with renewed focus. You follow them back into the ward, the crisp scent of antiseptic welcoming you once more. The afternoon light softens, turning golden as it streams through the windows, casting a warm glow over the scene of quiet care. You help Tatiana change a bandage, your hands learning the gentle but firm technique she demonstrates. You assist Olga in organizing the medicine cabinet, the small glass bottles clinking softly as you arrange them by type and dosage. You watch as Maria sits with a young soldier who is missing his family, her presence a silent comfort that needs no words. And you see Anastasia, ever the spark, using her gift for humor to lift the spirits of a group of men who are feeling the weight of their recovery. It's a symphony of service, each sister playing her part in harmony with the others. As the day draws to a close and the evening shadows begin to lengthen, the hospital wing settles into a quieter rhythm. The patients rest, the urgent tasks are completed, and the sisters take a moment to prepare for the next day. You help them fold the clean linens, the repetitive motion soothing, meditative. You listen as they share a final, quiet word about the day, their voices soft with fatigue but steady with satisfaction. There's no fanfare, no recognition beyond the grateful eyes of their patients. and that's how they prefer it. This work isn't about glory, it's about grace. It's about showing up, day after day, and offering what you can. You step out of the hospital wing as dusk settles over the palace grounds. The air is cool, crisp, carrying the scent of autumn leaves and wood smoke. You take a deep breath, feeling the calm that has settled in your own heart. The day has been long, demanding, but it has also been profoundly peaceful. You've witnessed the Grand Duchesses not as distant royal figures, but as dedicated caregivers, as young women who have chosen to trade silks for surgical whites, not out of obligation, but out of conviction. And in that choice, you've seen a different kind of royalty, defined not by birth, but by character, by compassion, by quiet, unwavering service. As you walk back toward your quarters, the soft rustle of your own simple dress, a familiar sound in the evening hush. You carry that feeling with you, the calm of purpose, the peace of service, the enduring strength of sisterhood, now tempered by the fires of real-world experience. The journey continues, the story unfolds, but for now, in this moment of quiet reflection, there is only peace. And as you settle into the soft darkness of the palace night, the memory of crisp cotton uniforms, gentle hands, and quiet determination wraps around you like a soft blanket, pulling you gently, peacefully, deeper into the story, deeper into the calm, deeper into the enduring service-tempered grace of the Romanov Grand Duchesses. The corridor leading to the operating theatre is quieter than the main ward, the air cooler, sharper. The scent of carbolic acid is stronger here, mingled with the clean, almost clinical smell of boiled linen and polished steel. You follow Tatiana down the hall, her steps measured, unhurried, but purposeful. She pauses at a small basin just outside the theatre door, pumping the handle of the ceramic dispenser. Clear water flows over her hands, and she scrubs methodically, the sound of bristles against skin a soft, rhythmic scratch. Olga joins her, and together they perform the ritual of preparation, washing not just their hands but their forearms, up to the elbows, the water running pink-tinged for a moment before clearing. It's a meditation in motion, a way to shift gears from the gentle care of the ward to the focused precision required here. You watch and you understand. This isn't just about cleanliness, it's about respect for the work, for the patient, for the gravity of what happens behind that heavy sound-dampened door. You step inside the operating theatre, and the world narrows. The room is bright, lit by large windows and the soft, steady glow of electric lamps. Still a novelty in many places, but here essential. The walls are painted a calming pale green, easy on the eyes during long hours of concentration. In the center of the room, a simple wooden table is draped in crisp white linen, ready. Trays of instruments gleam under the light. Scalpels, forceps, scissors, each one polished to a mirror shine, each one placed with deliberate order. The air is still, hushed, as if the room itself is holding its breath. A doctor nods to Tatiana, and she moves to her assigned position, her hands now gloved in thin, sterile cotton. Her expression is calm, focused, but you see the slight tension in her jaw, the careful control of her breathing. This is where the elder sisters truly earn their stripes. Mainstream historical records confirm that Olga and Tatiana assisted in surgical procedures during the war, not as surgeons, but as trained nurses who prepared instruments, managed supplies, and provided crucial support to the medical teams. You can feel that responsibility now, a quiet weight that they carry with grace. You stay near the periphery, observing. The patient is brought in, a young officer with a shrapnel wound to the leg. He's conscious, pale, but calm. Tatiana speaks to him softly, her voice a steady anchor in the tense room. "You're safe now," she murmurs in Russian, then repeats it in French, then in English, ensuring he understands no matter which language brings him comfort. Olga is at the instrument tray, her eyes tracking the doctor's movements, anticipating needs before they're spoken. She hands him a clamp, a suture, a fresh gauze pad, her movements fluid, economical. There's no wasted motion, no hesitation. It's a dance they've learned through weeks of rigorous training, through long hours of practice, through the simple, profound desire to help. You notice the way Tatiana keeps a cool, damp cloth ready for the patient's forehead, the way she adjusts the lighting with a gentle turn of a knob, the way she offers quiet encouragement without interrupting the doctor's concentration. It's not just technical skill, it's emotional intelligence. It's seeing the whole person, even in the midst of a procedure. The surgery proceeds with a quiet intensity. The only sounds are the soft clink of instruments, the doctor's low, precise instructions, the patient's steady breathing, and the occasional reassuring word from Tatiana. You watch as Olga carefully counts the gauze pads before and after, a simple but vital task to ensure nothing is left behind. You see Tatiana gently hold the patient's hand during a particularly difficult moment, her grip firm but not constricting, a silent promise that he's not alone. It's a fringe tidbit, but some medical logs from the Palace Hospital mention that the Grand Duchesses would sometimes hum soft, familiar tunes during lengthy procedures, a lullaby from childhood, a folk song from the countryside, to help calm both patient and staff. You can almost hear it now, a barely audible melody woven into the quiet hum of the room, a thread of comfort in the fabric of care. Historians still argue whether the presence of royal women in operating theatres was primarily a morale-boosting symbol for the troops, or a genuine, hands-on contribution to the war effort that challenged traditional gender roles of the era. As you stand there, witnessing the skill, the compassion, the quiet competence of Olga and Tatiana, it feels like both. It's symbolic, yes. The image of a Grand Duchess, her sleeves rolled up, her hands steady, aiding in the healing of a wounded soldier, sends a powerful message. But it's also real. Their training was rigorous, their work was demanding, their impact was tangible. And in this room, in this moment, none of that debate matters. What matters is the young officer on the table, the skilled hands working to heal him, and the quiet, unwavering presence of two sisters who have chosen to serve. When the procedure is complete and the patient is settled, the sisters step back, allowing the doctor and orderlies to take over the final preparations. They remove their gloves, wash their hands once more, and exchange a look, a small private acknowledgement of a job well done. There's no fanfare, no self-congratulation, just a quiet nod, a shared breath, and then they move on to the next task. You follow them out of the theatre, back into the slightly warmer air of the main corridor. The contrast is palpable, and you feel your own shoulders relax slightly, though the focus in their eyes remains. Now, you shift your attention to the younger sisters. Maria and Anastasia are in the main infirmary ward, a larger sunlit space filled with rows of beds. The atmosphere here is different, less clinical, more communal. The air carries the scent of broth, of fresh linen, of the faint sweet smell of the flowers patients sometimes receive. And it carries laughter, soft, gentle laughter, mixed with the murmur of conversation, the rustle of pages being turned, the occasional cough or sigh of discomfort. Maria moves through the ward like a quiet breeze, her presence soothing without being intrusive. She stops at each bed, not just to check on physical needs, but to connect. She adjusts a pillow, smooths a blanket, offers a sip of water. But she also listens. She hears the story about a soldier's newborn daughter, the worry about a letter that hasn't arrived, the simple longing for a taste of home, and she responds with empathy, with patience, with a kindness that seems to ease more than just physical pain. You watch as she sits beside an elderly private who is struggling to write a letter to his family. His hands are stiff, his eyes tired. Maria takes the pen gently, not to write for him but to steady his hand, to guide it just enough to make the task less frustrating. "Take your time," she whispers. "They'll treasure every word, no matter how it looks." It's a small act, but you see the relief in the man's eyes, the gratitude in his slight smile. Anastasia, meanwhile, is in another corner of the ward, her energy channeled into a different kind of care. She's organizing a small comfort cart, a wheeled trolley laden with books, writing paper, simple puzzles, and small treats like hard candies or dried fruit. She moves from bed to bed, offering choices, her playful spirit tempered by a genuine attentiveness to what each person might need. A book of poetry for the thoughtful young corporal, a deck of cards for a group of men looking for light distraction, a particularly juicy apple for the soldier who hasn't had much appetite. Her humour is still there, a witty comment, a playful impersonation of a stern tutor, but it's used now to lift spirits, to bring a moment of joy to a difficult day. You join Maria as she helps a young soldier practice walking with a new crutch. Her arm is around his waist, not to bear his weight, but to offer balance, confidence. "One step at a time," she encourages, her voice steady, hopeful. "You've got this," and he does. Slowly, carefully, but he does. You feel a swell of pride, not just for him, but for her. This is nursing too. Not the dramatic, high-stakes environment of the operating theatre, but the persistent work of rehabilitation, of hope, of restoring not just bodies but spirits. Mainstream historical accounts note that Maria and Anastasia, while too young for the most demanding medical duties, were invaluable in the infirmaries for their ability to connect with patients, to provide emotional support, and to organize small comforts that made a big difference in morale. You can see that truth in action now. The way a simple conversation, a shared laugh, a moment of genuine attention can be as healing as any medicine. There's a quirky detail you notice on Anastasia's comfort cart, a small hand-stitched pouch filled with dried lavender. A patient's wife sent it, hoping the scent would help her husband sleep. Anastasia now offers a pinch of the lavender to be placed under a pillow, or simply lets patients hold the pouch, breathing in the calming fragrance. It's a simple thing, but it speaks to the sisters' understanding that healing is holistic, that comfort for the mind and spirit is as important as care for the body. You take a moment to breathe in the lavender scent yourself, feeling its gentle, floral calm wrap around you, and you understand why it's so cherished. The afternoon light begins to soften, casting long golden rays through the tall windows of the infirmary. The ward settles into a quieter rhythm as patients rest, as the urgent tasks of the day give way to the gentle care of the evening. Maria and Anastasia move through the space with a familiar ease, checking on everyone one last time, ensuring needs are met, offering a final word of encouragement. You help them fold the extra blankets, the soft wool warm in your hands. You listen as they share a quiet word about the day, the young officer whose surgery went well, the elderly private who finished his letter, the soldier who took his first unassisted steps. There's a quiet satisfaction in their voices, a sense of purpose fulfilled, as dusk settles and the lamps are lit, casting a warm, gentle glow over the ward. The sisters take a moment to sit together on a bench near the window. They're tired. You can see it in the slight droop of their shoulders, the soft shadows under their eyes. But there's a light in their expressions that isn't just fatigue. It's fulfillment. It's the quiet glow that comes from a day spent in meaningful service. You sit with them, sharing the comfortable silence, watching as the last rays of sun paint the sky in shades of rose and lavender. The day has been long, demanding, filled with moments of both intensity and tenderness. And through it all, the bond of OTMA has been their anchor, their source of strength. Olga and Tatiana, with their focused skill in the clinical spaces. Maria and Anastasia, with their compassionate hearts in the communal wards. Together they cover the spectrum of care, each contributing in their own way, all united in purpose. You feel that unity now, a calm, steady presence that wraps around you like a soft blanket. The journey continues, the story unfolds, but for now, in this moment of quiet reflection, there is only peace. And as you close your eyes, listening to the soft, rhythmic breathing of the resting patients, the gentle murmur of the sisters' voices, you feel yourself sinking gently, peacefully, into the next chapter of their lives, cradled by the enduring, care-tempered grace of the Romanov Grand Duchesses. The seasons turn, and with them, the mood of the empire. You feel it in the air now, a subtle tension that wasn't there during those early days of service, when the war felt distant, abstract, a noble cause to rally behind. Now, as you walk with the sisters through the palace corridors, the conversations are quieter, more measured. The news that arrives with the morning post carries a heavier weight. You see it in the way Olga pauses longer over the newspapers, her brow furrowed not in concentration but in concern. You notice how Tatiana's efficient movements sometimes still, just for a heartbeat, as she processes a report from the front. Maria's gentle smile occasionally falters when she thinks no one is looking, and even Anastasia's playful energy is tempered by moments of quiet reflection. The war is no longer just a backdrop for service. It's a presence, a pressure, a shadow that lengthens with each passing month. You join them in the palace library one evening, the fire crackling softly in the hearth, casting dancing shadows on the walls lined with books. The room is warm, comfortable, but the atmosphere is contemplative. Olga is reading a letter from a friend at another hospital, her expression thoughtful. Tatiana is reviewing a list of supplies needed for the ward, her pencil moving steadily across the page. Maria is mending a tear in one of her nursing uniforms, her stitches small and precise, while Anastasia sits by the window watching the dusk settle over the gardens, her sketchbook open but untouched on her lap. It's a scene of domestic calm, but beneath the surface, you sense the undercurrent of change. Mainstream historical accounts confirm that by 1916-1917, the Romanov family was acutely aware of the growing unrest in Russia. The food shortages, the labor strikes, the whispers of revolution that moved from the cities into the consciousness of even the most sheltered palace residents. You can feel that awareness now, not as panic, but as a quiet, sober recognition that the world they knew was shifting. You remember that the Grand Duchesses' nursing work didn't just mature them medically, it matured them emotionally, spiritually. They had seen suffering on a scale they could never have imagined as children. They had held the hands of dying young men, had celebrated small recoveries, had witnessed both the best and the worst of humanity in the crucible of war, and through it all they had leaned on each other. The bond of OTMA, forged in the nursery, tested in the public eye, had been tempered in the hospital wards. It was stronger now, deeper, a source of resilience that no external pressure could break. Historians still argue whether the sisters' unwavering loyalty to their family and their faith blinded them to the political realities of their time, or whether they simply chose to focus on what they could control, their service, their compassion, their love for each other, in the face of overwhelming uncertainty. As you sit with them now, in the quiet of the library, it doesn't matter. What matters is the strength they've cultivated, the grace they've maintained. Even as the ground beneath them begins to tremble, there's a quirky detail you notice on Olga's desk, a small pressed flower tucked into the corner of her diary. It's a simple blue forget-me-not, its petals delicate, its colour faded but still visible. She tells you later that a wounded soldier gave it to her, saying it reminded him of the fields back home in Ukraine. He said to remember that beautiful things can grow, even after hard times. Olga explained softly, her finger tracing the edge of the petal. She keeps it as a reminder, not just of the soldier's kindness, but of the hope that persists, even in darkness. It's a fringe tidbit, but it speaks to the way the Grand Duchesses collected these small tokens of humanity, these moments of connection that sustained them through the long, difficult days of war. You look at the flower, feeling the fragile paper it's preserved on, and you understand. Hope isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a quiet, pressed bloom, held gently between the pages of a diary. The days grow shorter, the light thinner. You notice the palace staff moving with a new caution, their whispers hushed, their glances wary. The sisters notice it too. But they don't retreat, they don't hide. They continue their work in the hospital wing with the same dedication, the same compassion. If anything, their resolve strengthens. You watch as Tatiana calmly reassures a nervous new nurse, her voice steady, her presence an anchor in uncertain times. You see Olga organize a small drive for warm socks and gloves to be sent to soldiers at the front, her leadership quiet but effective. Maria spends extra time with patients who are feeling the weight of the news, her empathy a balm for anxious hearts. And Anastasia, ever the spark, uses her humor not to deflect, but to uplift, to remind everyone that joy and laughter are still possible, still necessary, even when the world feels heavy. It's a different kind of courage. Not the bold, dramatic courage of battle, but the quiet, persistent courage of showing up, day after day, and choosing kindness, choosing service, choosing hope. You walk with them one afternoon in the palace gardens, now stripped of their summer finery, the trees bare, the flower beds dormant under a light dusting of snow. The air is crisp clean, carrying the scent of pine and wood smoke. The sisters are bundled in simple wool coats, their breath visible in the cold. They walk slowly, their steps crunching softly on the frost-covered path. The conversation is light, but there's an undercurrent of reflection. They talk about the patients they've lost, not with despair, but with respect, with a quiet acknowledgement of the cost of war. They share memories of the soldiers who recovered, who went back to their families, who sent letters of gratitude that now fill a small wooden box in Maria's room. They speak of the future, not with certainty, but with faith, with a belief that no matter what comes, they will face it together. You feel that faith now, a calm, steady presence that seems to radiate from them, wrapping around you like a warm shawl in the cold air. The political tides are turning. You hear the distant rumble of protests in the cities, the whispers of abdication that begin to circulate even within the palace walls. But here in this moment, with the sisters walking beside you through the winter garden, none of that feels immediate. What feels real is the crunch of snow underfoot, the warmth of their companionship, the quiet strength of their shared resolve. They are not naive, they understand the gravity of the situation. But they have chosen their path, to serve, to love, to support each other, no matter what. It's a choice that requires immense maturity, a grace that has been forged in the fires of service and tested by the pressures of a changing world. Mainstream historical records note that in the final months before the revolution, the Grand Duchesses remained dedicated to their nursing work, even as their own circumstances grew increasingly precarious. You can feel that dedication now, not as stubbornness but as conviction, as a commitment to their values that transcends circumstance. As the afternoon light begins to fade, painting the snow in shades of rose and lavender, the sisters pause by a small frozen fountain. They stand in silence for a moment, watching as the last birds of the day flit between the bare branches of the trees. There's a peace in this moment, a stillness that feels profound. You understand that this isn't denial, it's presence. It's the ability to find calm, to appreciate beauty, to hold on to hope, even when the future is uncertain. It's a lesson they've learned through their service, through their sisterhood, through the quiet daily practice of grace. You feel it too, a deep, soothing calm that settles in your chest, that slows your breath, that pulls you into the gentle rhythm of the moment. The journey continues, the story unfolds, but for now, in this quiet winter garden, with the Grand Duchesses standing beside you, their breath misting in the cold air, their spirits steady despite the storms gathering on the horizon, there is only peace. And as you turn to walk back toward the palace, the soft crunch of snow underfoot a comforting rhythm, you carry that peace with you. It's not the peace of ignorance, it's the peace of resilience, of faith, of love that refuses to be shaken. You feel yourself drifting deeper into the calm, into the story, into the enduring, storm-tempered grace of the Romanov Grand Duchesses. The air in the Alexander Palace feels different now, not just cooler, not just quieter, but heavier. You walk down a familiar corridor, one you've traversed countless times in sun-dappled afternoons and candlelit evenings. But today, the light seems dimmer, the shadows longer. At the end of the hall, a new presence stands guard. Not the familiar, respectful palace staff, but soldiers in uniforms that feel foreign, their expressions unreadable, their posture rigid. You pause, and the sisters gently guide you forward, their hands light on your arm, a silent reassurance that everything will be all right. But you feel it. The walls are closing in. You step into the suite of rooms that will now be your world. They're the same rooms, technically, the same pale green wallpaper, the same polished wooden floors, the same tall windows that once framed blooming gardens. But everything has changed. The windows are now partially obscured by whitewash, painted over to limit the view from outside, turning the bright Russian daylight into a soft, diffused glow that feels both protective and confining. The heavy doors that once opened freely onto the palace corridors now remain closed, guarded, the world beyond reduced to muffled sounds and distant footsteps. You run your fingers along the edge of a familiar desk, feeling the smooth wood worn by years of use, and you notice the small, almost imperceptible tremor in your hand. This isn't a visit. This is captivity. But the sisters, they adapt, not with drama, not with protest, but with a quiet, steadfast dignity that feels more powerful than any outcry. Olga is already arranging the small sitting area, moving a chair to catch the best of the filtered light, placing a book on the table. Not a grand gesture, but a simple act of creating order in chaos. Tatiana checks the supplies they've been allowed to keep. A few changes of simple clothing, basic toiletries, a small selection of books, the precious diaries and letters that hold their inner lives. Maria is smoothing the linen on a bed, her movements gentle, methodical, as if the simple act of making a bed can impose a sense of normalcy on an abnormal situation. And Anastasia, ever the spark, is testing the acoustics of the room with a soft hum, a playful smile on her lips that says, "Well, this is new, but we'll make it work." You watch them and you feel a swell of admiration. This isn't denial, it's resilience. Mainstream historical accounts confirm that after the February Revolution in 1917, the Romanov family was placed under house arrest at the Alexander Palace in Tsarskoye Selo. where they lived in confined but relatively comfortable conditions, maintaining a strict daily routine despite the restrictions imposed by the provisional government. You can feel that routine taking shape now. A scaffold of normalcy built within the walls of confinement. The days settle into a new rhythm. Mornings begin not with the freedom of the palace gardens, but with the soft murmur of prayer in their shared sitting room. The sisters standing close together, their voices low but steady. Breakfast is simple: tea, dark bread, perhaps a small portion of kasha, served on plain porcelain, the silverware they once used now replaced with simpler utensils. But the sisters eat together, conversation flowing as easily as ever, discussing the book they're reading aloud, the progress of a knitting project, the amusing antics of the palace cat, who has somehow remained with them. You join them at the small table, feeling the warmth of their camaraderie, the quiet strength of their unity. It's not the expansive freedom of before, but it's a freedom of the spirit, one that no guard, no locked door can touch. You notice the small details that speak to their adaptation. On Maria's bedside table, a small vase holds a single sprig of ivy, a cutting she's nurtured from a plant in the palace conservatory. It's a tiny piece of the green world they can no longer freely roam, a living reminder that growth is still possible, even in confinement. Tatiana has arranged their few permitted books on a shelf with meticulous care, creating a small library that feels both practical and comforting. Olga keeps a journal, not just of events, but of thoughts, of hopes, of the small beauties she observes each day. A shaft of light on the floor, the pattern of frost on the window, the way Anastasia's laughter can still light up a room. And Anastasia herself has started a new sketchbook, filling its pages not with grand scenes, but with intimate moments. Olga reading, Tatiana mending, Maria tending her ivy, the four of them gathered around a small table, their heads bent together. It's a fringe tidbit, but some accounts from the period mention that the Grand Duchesses created small handmade gifts for the guards who treated them with kindness. A knitted scarf, a simple drawing, a shared piece of chocolate, small acts of humanity that sometimes softened the rigid boundaries of their captivity. You can imagine Anastasia offering a quick, charming sketch to a young soldier, her smile disarming, her gesture a quiet bridge across an impossible divide. Historians still argue whether the family's relative comfort during their initial captivity was a sign of the provisional government's ambivalence about their fate, or a deliberate strategy to avoid creating martyrs by treating them with basic decency. As you sit with the sisters now, in the quiet of their confined rooms, it doesn't matter. What matters is how they use this time, how they choose to live. They don't rail against their circumstances. They don't succumb to despair. They create a world within walls. They maintain their routines in languages and history. Embroidery practice, shared reading time, quiet games of cards. They care for each other. They find joy in the small, the simple, the shared. You help Olga sort through a basket of mending, the soft wool of a sock warm in your hands. You listen as Tatiana reads a passage from a novel, her voice weaving a story that transports you all, if only for a little while, beyond these walls. You watch as Maria teaches Anastasia a new embroidery stitch, their fingers moving in tandem, a silent language of sisterhood, and you see Anastasia, ever the imp, create a playful shadow puppet on the wall with her hands, making the others laugh, the sound bright and clear, a reminder that joy can exist even in the darkest of times. The afternoons are the hardest, the light is strongest then, and with it comes the keenest awareness of what they're missing. The freedom to walk in the gardens, to feel the sun on their faces without a barrier, to breathe the unconfined air. But even then, they find ways. They gather by the window, the whitewash, softening the view but not eliminating it entirely. They watch the seasons change in the palace grounds, the buds swelling on the trees, the flowers blooming in the distance, the leaves turning gold in autumn, the snow falling in silent blankets. They name the birds that visit the feeder outside. They track the progress of a particular rosebush. They marvel at the way the light changes hour by hour. It's a form of travel, a way of staying connected to the world beyond, even when they cannot physically be part of it. You stand with them at the window, your shoulder touching Maria's, and you feel the quiet longing, but also the quiet acceptance. They cannot change their circumstances, but they can choose how to respond to them, and they choose grace, As evening falls and the lamps are lit, casting a warm golden glow over their confined world, the sisters gather closer. The conversation turns inward, reflective. They share memories of happier times, not with sadness, but with gratitude, with a celebration of the beauty they've known. They talk about the patients they cared for during the war, the letters of gratitude they received, the small victories that made the hard work worthwhile. They speak of their hopes for the future, not with certainty, but with faith, with a belief that no matter what comes, they will face it together as OTMA. You feel that faith now, a calm, steady presence that seems to radiate from them, wrapping around you like a soft blanket in the cool evening air. Mainstream historical records note that during their captivity at Tsarskoye Selo, the Grand Duchesses maintained a strict schedule of lessons, prayers, and domestic activities, finding strength in routine and in each other. You can see that truth in action now, the way a simple, predictable day can become an anchor in uncertain seas, the way shared purpose can fortify the spirit against external pressures. There's a quirky detail you notice on Anastasia's sketchbook one evening, a small playful drawing of the four of them as kittens curled together in a basket, with tiny crowns perched askew on their heads. It's whimsical, tender, a reminder that even in confinement, their sense of humour, their love for each other remains intact. She shows it to you with a shy smile, and you feel a lump in your throat, not of sadness, but of admiration. This is resilience. Not the loud, dramatic kind, but the quiet, persistent kind that chooses love over fear, hope over despair, laughter over tears. You look at the drawing, feeling the soft paper under your fingertips, and you understand. The walls may close in, but the spirit can still soar. As the night deepens and the palace settles into a hushed silence, broken only by the distant tread of guards and the soft rustle of the sisters preparing for bed, you feel a profound calm settle over you. It's not the calm of freedom, not the calm of ease. It's the calm of dignity, of faith, of love that refuses to be extinguished. You help Maria fold the day's linens, the repetitive motion soothing, meditative. You listen as Olga reads a final passage from a book, her voice soft and steady in the quiet room. You watch as Tatiana extinguishes the last lamp, leaving only the soft glow of a single nightlight, and as Anastasia whispers a playful goodnight that draws a soft chuckle from the others. It's a ritual, a familiar rhythm that transcends circumstance. You settle into your own simple bed, the linen crisp and clean, and you listen to the soft, rhythmic breathing of the sisters nearby. The day has been long, confined, marked by the quiet ache of lost freedom, but it has also been filled with moments of beauty, of connection, of quiet strength. You carry that feeling with you as you drift towards sleep, the enduring grace of four sisters who, even when the world closes in, choose to live with dignity, with love, with hope. The journey continues, the story unfolds, but for now, in this quiet room at Tsarskoye Selo, with the Grand Duchesses resting peacefully nearby, there is only peace, and as you close your eyes, feeling the soft weight of the blanket, hearing the gentle hum of the palace at night, you feel yourself sinking gently, peacefully, deeper into the story, deeper into the calm, deeper into the enduring, confinement-tempered grace of the Romanov Grand Duchesses. The garden, when you're allowed to visit it, feels both familiar and foreign. You step through the heavy door onto the stone terrace and the air hits you, crisp, clean, carrying the scent of damp earth and the faint, sweet promise of spring blooms just beginning to stir beneath the soil. But the space is smaller now, cordoned off by a newly erected wooden fence that limits your view, your movement, your connection to the wider palace grounds. Soldiers stand at a respectful but firm distance, their presence a quiet reminder that even this slice of nature is a privilege, not a right. You take a deep breath anyway, feeling the cool air fill your lungs, and you look to the sisters. They're already moving toward the small, permitted plot, a modest rectangle of earth that has become their sanctuary, their canvas, their quiet act of defiance against confinement. Maria kneels first, her hands gentle in the soil, testing its texture, its moisture. She's brought a small trowel, a simple wooden thing worn smooth by use, and she begins to turn the earth with careful, deliberate motions. Olga joins her, holding a packet of seeds, nasturtiums, marigolds, a few hardy herbs that can thrive in the short Russian growing season. Tatiana measures the rows with a piece of string, her precision turning the simple act of planting into a ritual of order, of hope. And Anastasia, ever the spark, is already humming a soft tune, her fingers dancing over the soil as if she's playing an invisible piano, drawing a smile from Maria, a quiet chuckle from the others. You kneel beside them, feeling the cool rich earth beneath your fingertips, and you understand. This isn't just gardening, it's therapy. It's a connection to the cycles of life, to the promise of growth, to the simple profound joy of nurturing something beautiful, even when your own world feels constrained. Mainstream historical accounts confirm that during their captivity at Tsarskoye Selo, the Romanov family was permitted limited time in a small section of the palace gardens, where they grew vegetables and flowers, a small but significant outlet that provided both practical sustenance and emotional respite. You can feel that truth now. The way the act of planting a seed can feel like planting a hope, the way tending a fragile sprout can mirror tending your own spirit. The work is quiet, meditative. You help Olga space the seeds just so, your fingers brushing against hers in the soft soil. You watch as Tatiana waters the newly planted rose with a gentle hand, the water soaking into the earth with a soft, satisfying hiss. You see Maria whispering encouragement to a particularly shy seedling, as if her words alone can coax it toward the sun. And you laugh with Anastasia as she creates a tiny whimsical fairy garden in one corner, using pebbles, twigs, and a single perfect blue flower she found tucked in her pocket. It's a fringe tidbit, but some diaries from the period mention that the Grand Duchesses would sometimes small, secret gardens within their permitted plot, tiny, hidden spaces decorated with found objects, bits of ribbon, or handwritten notes tucked beneath stones, just for the joy of it. You can imagine Anastasia placing a tiny hand-drawn crown on a pebble, a secret gift for the garden spirits, her smile a quiet rebellion against the gloom. Historians still argue whether these small acts of domesticity, gardening, knitting, letter writing, were primarily coping mechanisms to preserve mental health during captivity, or subtle forms of resistance that asserted the family's dignity and humanity in the face of dehumanizing circumstances. As you work alongside the sisters now, feeling the sun warm your back, smelling the earthy scent of soil and new growth, it doesn't matter. What matters is the peace you find in the doing, the calm that settles over you as you focus on the simple, tangible task at hand. The world beyond the fence may be uncertain, may be frightening, but here, in this small plot of earth, you can control this. You can plant a seed, you can water it, you can watch it grow. And in that control, however small, there is freedom. When the garden time ends, as it always does, with a gentle but firm reminder from the guards, you return to your confined rooms with soil under your fingernails and a quiet satisfaction in your heart. But the cultivation doesn't stop there. Inside, the sisters turn to other forms of nurturing, other ways to preserve their inner world. You settle into the soft light of the sitting room, where Maria has already set up her knitting basket. The wool is simple, undyed in soft creams and greys, but her hands move with practiced grace, the needles clicking a soft, rhythmic song against the silence. She's knitting socks for soldiers, she explains, her voice gentle. Even if we can't be there, she says, these can keep someone's feet warm. That matters. You take up a pair of needles yourself, feeling the soft wool, learning the simple stitch she teaches you. The repetition is soothing, meditative. Each loop, each pull of the yarn, is a small act of care, a tangible way to send love into a world that feels increasingly distant. Nearby, Olga is writing a letter, not an official correspondence, but a personal one, to a friend, to a former patient, to a cousin far away. Her pen moves steadily across the page, the ink dark and sure. She writes of small things, the progress of the garden, the book they're reading, the way the light falls on the floor in the afternoon. She writes of hope, of faith, of the enduring strength of family. You watch her for a moment, and you understand that these letters are more than just words on paper. They're lifelines. They're a way to stay connected to the world beyond, to remind others, and themselves, that they are still here, still thinking, still feeling, still loving. Mainstream historical records note that during their captivity, the Grand Duchesses were allowed to send and receive letters under strict censorship, and that these correspondences became vital emotional anchors, preserving their sense of identity and connection. You can feel that truth now, the way a single, carefully worded sentence can carry a universe of meaning, the way the act of writing can be an act of preservation, And then there's the laughter. Oh, the laughter. It's still there, bright and unexpected, a spark that refuses to be extinguished. Anastasia is the catalyst, of course. She'll mimic a stern guard's posture with such perfect, playful exaggeration that Maria snorts into her knitting. She'll tell a silly story about the palace cat's latest adventure, her voice animated, her eyes sparkling, and soon the whole room is filled with soft, genuine laughter, the kind that lightens the heart, that reminds you that joy is still possible, still necessary. You remember that crocodile dung sunscreen from a lifetime ago, and you chuckle at the absurdity of it all, the sheer human ridiculousness that persists even in the darkest of times. It's a fringe tidbit, but some accounts from guards who served during the captivity mention that the Grand Duchess's humour, particularly Anastasia's, could sometimes disarm tension, creating brief moments of shared humanity that transcended the rigid roles of captor and captive. You can imagine it now, a young soldier tasked with a duty he doesn't fully understand, hearing the soft laughter from behind a door, and for a heartbeat, remembering that the people he guards are just that, people. You help Tatiana organize their small library, the books arranged with care on a single shelf. She reads aloud sometimes, her voice weaving stories that transport you all, tales of adventure, of love, of quiet triumphs. The words fill the room, pushing back the silence, creating a shared world that exists beyond these walls. You listen, feeling the rhythm of her voice, the warmth of the story, and you feel yourself drifting, just a little, into that other world. It's a form of escape, yes, but also a form of resistance, a refusal to let the confines of your physical space limit the expansiveness of your mind, your spirit. Historians still argue whether the family's emphasis on routine, education, and cultural activities during captivity was a conscious strategy to maintain morale, or simply the natural expression of their upbringing and values. As you sit with them now, listening to Tatiana's voice, feeling the soft wool of your knitting project in your hands, smelling the faint scent of ink and old paper, it doesn't matter. What matters is the peace you find in the moment, the calm that comes from shared purpose, from love, from the simple, profound act of being together. The days blend into a gentle rhythm. Garden time, knitting, letter writing, shared reading, quiet games, playful teasing. It's not the expansive freedom of before, but it's a freedom of the spirit, one that no fence, no guard, no locked door can touch. You notice how the sisters support each other without fanfare. Olga offering a quiet word of encouragement when Maria feels discouraged. Tatiana stepping in to help Anastasia with a difficult stitch. Maria sharing a small treat she's saved from her meal. Anastasia creating a silly dance to lift everyone's spirits on a grey afternoon. It's a symphony of care, each sister playing her part in harmony with the others, their bond not just surviving the pressure of captivity, but deepening, strengthening, becoming an unbreakable fortress of love. As evening falls and the lamps are lit, casting a warm, golden glow over their confined world, you gather closer. The conversation turns reflective, but not sad. They share memories of the garden they planted that morning, imagining how the flowers will look in full bloom. They discuss the letter Olga is writing, offering suggestions, adding small notes of their own. They laugh over a playful sketch Anastasia has made of the day's events, a whimsical cartoon of the four of them as garden gnomes, trowels in hand, crowns slightly askew. You feel a profound sense of peace settle over you. It's not the peace of ease, not the peace of freedom. It's the peace of resilience, of faith, of a love that chooses to bloom even in the cracks of confinement. You help Maria fold the day's knitting, the soft wool warm in your hands. You listen as Olga reads a final, hopeful passage from a book, her voice steady in the quiet room. You watch as Tatiana extinguishes the last lamp, leaving only the soft glow of a single nightlight, and as Anastasia whispers a playful goodnight that draws a soft chuckle from the others. It's a ritual, a familiar rhythm that transcends circumstance. You settle into your simple bed, the linen crisp and clean, and you listen to the soft, rhythmic breathing of the sisters nearby. The day has been confined, marked by the quiet ache of lost freedom, but it has also been filled with moments of beauty, of connection, of quiet strength. You carry that feeling with you as you drift towards sleep. The enduring grace of four sisters who, even when the world closes in, choose to live with dignity, with love, with hope. The journey continues, the story unfolds, but for now, In this quiet room at Tsarskoye Selo, with the Grand Duchesses resting peacefully nearby, there is only peace. And as you close your eyes, feeling the soft weight of the blanket, hearing the gentle hum of the palace at night, you feel yourself sinking gently, peacefully, deeper into the story, deeper into the calm, deeper into the enduring confinement-tempered grace of the Romanov Grand Duchesses. The train ride is long, monotonous. The rhythmic clack of wheels on tracks a constant, lulling soundtrack to a journey into the unknown. You see, beside the sisters in a compartment that feels both cramped and vast. Cramped by the physical confine, vast by the uncertainty of what awaits. The landscape outside the window shifts from the familiar greenery of European Russia to the endless, snow-dusted expanse of Siberia, a white wilderness that stretches to the horizon under a pale, winter sky. The air inside the carriage is cool, carrying the scent of coal smoke, old wool, and the faint, comforting aroma of the tea the sisters share from a single, chipped porcelain cup. You wrap your shawl tighter around your shoulders, feeling the weight of the journey, the quiet gravity of leaving behind everything you've known. But you look to the sisters, and you see not fear, but resolve. Olga holds a small, worn Bible, her fingers tracing a familiar passage. Tatiana checks the contents of their single shared valise, ensuring their few precious belongings are secure. Maria knits quietly, the soft click of needles a soothing rhythm against the train's clatter, and Anastasia watches the snow-covered pines race by, her expression thoughtful but not sad. You feel their calm, their unity, and it steadies you. Mainstream historical accounts confirm that in August 1917, the Romanov family was transferred from Tsarskoye Selo to Tobolsk in Siberia, a move intended to isolate them further from the political turmoil of the capital, but one that also brought harsher conditions, deeper isolation, and a profound test of their resilience. You can feel that test now, not as a dramatic confrontation, but as a quiet daily choosing of hope over despair. Tobolsk is a revelation of quiet endurance. The governor's mansion where they're housed is modest, sturdy, its wooden floors creaking with age, its windows small but bright. The rooms are simpler, those at Tsarskoye Selo, the furnishings plain, but they are clean, warm, and filled with the same soft light that seems to follow the sisters wherever they go. You help them unpack their few belongings, the same simple clothing, the same precious books, the same small icons that have travelled with them from the Alexander Palace. Olga places her Bible on a small shelf. Tatiana arranges their writing materials with care. Maria finds a spot for a single cherished photograph of their parents, and Anastasia tucks a small hand-carved wooden bird, the one from the hospital ward, into a corner, a quiet token of continuity. It's not home, not as they knew it, but it is a space they can make their own, a sanctuary they can build within new walls. You notice how they move through the rooms, not with resignation but with purpose, creating order, finding beauty in the simple, the available. The scent of pine from the wooden walls, the soft glow of a kerosene lamp, the gentle crackle of a stove burning birch logs. These become the new sensory anchors of their days. The routine re-establishes itself, a testament to the power of habit, of faith, of love. Mornings begin with prayer, the sisters standing close together in the small sitting room, their voices a soft, steady murmur that seems to push back the vast Siberian silence. Breakfast is simple: tea, dark bread, perhaps a small portion of porridge, but it is shared, conversation flowing as easily as ever. Lessons resume: languages, history, mathematics, taught now by their parents or by a devoted tutor who has followed them into exile. You sit with them at a plain wooden table, the scratch of pencils on paper a familiar, comforting sound. Olga helps Tatiana with a complex equation. Tatiana corrects Maria's French pronunciation. Maria patiently explains a historical timeline to Anastasia, who listens with uncharacteristic stillness, her playful energy channeled into focus. It's a scene of domestic normalcy, a quiet rebellion against the chaos that swirls beyond these walls. Historians still argue whether the family's insistence on maintaining their educational routine in Siberia was a practical preparation for an uncertain future or a psychological necessity, a way to preserve their sense of identity and purpose in the face of erasure. As you watch them now, heads bent together over a shared textbook, you understand that it is both. The mind, like the spirit, must be nourished, especially when the body is confined. The afternoons are for domestic tasks, for creativity, for connection. You join Maria in the small kitchen, helping her knead dough for bread, the warmth of the oven a comforting presence in the cool Siberian air. The rhythm of your hands in the flour is meditative, the simple, tangible act of creating sustenance a profound comfort. Nearby, Tatiana mends a tear in one of Anastasia's dresses, her stitches small and precise, her focus absolute. I'll write in her journal, her pen moving steadily across the page, capturing not just events but reflections, hopes, the small beauties she observes. A shaft of winter light on the floor, the pattern of frost on the window, the way Anastasia's laughter can still light up a room. And Anastasia herself is sketching again, filling a new notebook with scenes of their Siberian life. The view from their window, the guards in their heavy coats, the sisters gathered around the stove, their faces glowing in the firelight. It's a fringe tidbit, but some accounts from the Tobolsk period mention that the Grand Duchesses would sometimes create small handmade gifts for the more sympathetic guards. A knitted wrist warmer, a simple drawing, a shared piece of chocolate, small acts of humanity that sometimes softened the rigid boundaries of their captivity, creating fleeting moments of connection in an otherwise isolated existence. You can imagine Anastasia offering a quick, charming sketch of a Siberian JV to a young soldier, her smile disarming, her gesture a quiet bridge across an impossible divide. The winters in Tobolsk are long, deep, the snow piling high against the windows, the world outside reduced to a monochrome landscape of white and grey. But inside, the sisters cultivate warmth, not just from the stove but from each other. You gather around the small table in the evenings, the lamp casting a soft, golden pool of light. Maria reads aloud from a beloved novel, her voice weaving a story that transports you all, if only for a little while, beyond the confines of exile. Tatiana leads a quiet game of cards, her competitive spirit tempered by gentle teasing. Olga shares a passage from her journal, a reflection on faith, on hope, on the enduring power of love. And Anastasia, ever the spark, tells a silly story, her voice animated, her eyes sparkling, drawing soft laughter from the others, a sound that feels like a victory against the encroaching darkness. You help them fold the day's mending, the soft wool of a sock warm in your hands. You listen as they share memories of warmer days, not with sadness but with gratitude, with a celebration of the beauty they've known. They speak of the garden they planted at Tsarskoye Selo, imagining how the flowers might have bloomed in their absence. They talk about the patients they cared for during the war, the letters of gratitude they received, the small victories that made the hard work worthwhile. They speak of their hopes for the future, not with certainty, but with faith. With a belief that no matter what comes, they will face it together, as OTMA. You notice the small details that speak to their adaptation, their resilience. On Maria's windowsill, a small pot holds a cutting of ivy, a tiny green promise of life in the midst of winter. Tatiana has arranged their few permitted books on a shelf with meticulous care, creating a small library that feels both practical and comforting. Olga keeps a separate journal for dreams, for hopes, for the quiet, persistent belief that beauty and goodness will ultimately prevail. And Anastasia has started a new sketchbook dedicated to Siberian wonders, the intricate patterns of frost on the window, the bold silhouette of a pine against the snow, the playful antics of a squirrel braving the cold. It's a fringe tidbit, but some diaries from the period mention that the Grand Duchesses would sometimes hold salons in their exile, sharing poetry, music, and philosophical discussions, creating a rich inner life that transcended their physical confinement. You can imagine them now gathered around the stove, Olga reciting a verse of Pushkin, Tatiana humming a gentle melody, Maria sharing a thoughtful reflection, Anastasia adding a playful illustration, their voices blending in a quiet symphony of the spirit. The political tides continue to shift, the news that filters through to Tobolsk growing darker, more urgent. You feel the tension in the air, the increased vigilance of the guards, the whispered conversations that stop when you enter a room. But the sisters, they do not retreat, they do not succumb to fear. They continue their routine with the same dedication, the same compassion, the same quiet faith. If anything, their bond deepens, their reliance on each other becoming even more profound. You watch as Olga calmly reassures Maria when a particularly troubling report arrives, her voice steady. her presence an anchor in uncertain times. You see Tatiana organize their small supplies with quiet efficiency, ensuring everyone has what they need. Her care a tangible expression of love. You witness Maria spend extra time with Anastasia on a difficult lesson, her patience a balm for frustration. And you see Anastasia, ever the spark, use her humor not to deflect but to uplift, to remind everyone that joy and laughter are still possible, still necessary, even when the world feels heavy. It's a different kind of courage, not the bold, dramatic courage of battle, but the quiet, persistent courage of showing up day after day and choosing kindness, choosing service, choosing hope. As the long Siberian winter begins to soften, the days growing slightly longer, the light taking on a hint of gold, you walk with the sisters to the small permitted garden plot outside the mansion. The earth is still frozen, but the promise of spring is in the air. You kneel beside them, feeling the cool, hard soil beneath your fingertips, and you help them plan what to plant when the thaw comes. Nasturtiums, marigolds, a few hardy herbs, seeds of hope tucked into the earth, a quiet act of faith in a future they may not see. You feel the quiet determination in their hands, the shared belief that growth is still possible, even here, even now. Mainstream historical records note that in the spring of 1918, the family was moved again, this time to Ekaterinburg, a move that would prove to be their final chapter. But in this moment, in this small garden plot in Tobolsk, there is only the present, only the quiet act of planting, of hoping, of believing. The journey continues, the story unfolds, but for now, in this quiet corner of Siberia, with the Grand Duchesses kneeling beside you in the cool earth, their spirits steady despite the storms gathering on the horizon, there is only peace. And as you turn to walk back toward the mansion, the soft crunch of snow underfoot a comforting rhythm, you carry that peace with you. It's not the peace of ignorance, it's the peace of resilience, of faith, of love that refuses to be shaken. You feel yourself drifting deeper into the calm, into the story, into the enduring, exile-tempered grace of the Romanov Grand Duchesses. The snow in Tobolsk melts softly in your mind's eye, and the heavy wooden door of that exiled house closes behind you with a quiet final click. But the story doesn't end in the frozen earth or the hushed archives of the past. Instead, the timeline shifts forward, gently pulling you through the quiet corridors of a modern preservation space, where history waits not as a distant, untouchable monument, but as a whisper you can almost brush against with your fingertips. You step into a softly lit room, and the air changes immediately. It's cooler here, meticulously controlled, carrying that faint, dry scent of aged paper, acid-free storage boxes, and the subtle, clean odor of archival materials. Behind low, unobtrusive glass cases, under carefully diffused lighting, lie small, profoundly ordinary objects. A leather-bound diary, its spine cracked from use, its cover worn smooth by anxious thumbs. A bundle of letters tied with a faded silk ribbon, the knot slightly frayed. A simple silver hairbrush, its bristles still holding the ghost of 100 quiet morning routines. You lean in and suddenly the century between you and them collapses into a single, breathless moment. These aren't just historical artifacts. They are voices preserved. When your eyes settle on the first open diary, the faded blue ink pulls you straight into Olga's thoughtful mind. Her handwriting is precise, almost architectural, spelling out quiet worries about a sister's lingering cough, her steady hopes for a milder spring, the gentle rhythm of a day measured in lessons and walks. You turn the fragile page, and there's Tatiana's crisp, methodical script, listing household duties, noting the shift in the wind, her words a quiet metronome of responsibility. Maria's entries are softer, filled with tender observations of a sparrow nesting on the windowsill, careful sketches of pressed leaves, little notes of gratitude for a cup of warm tea shared on a grey afternoon. And Anastasia's, hers are alive with quick, playful marginalia, tiny cartoons of stern guards with exaggerated eyebrows, hurried notes about a joke that only the four of them understood, the spontaneous, bubbling energy of a spirit that refused to be confined by margins or rules. Mainstream historical records confirm that the careful recovery, translation, and publication of these personal diaries in the late 20th and early 21st centuries fundamentally transformed public understanding of the Grand Duchesses, shifting them from static, tragic figures in history textbooks into vividly breathing, deeply human young women. You can feel that transformation right now, in the intimate quiet of reading words that were never meant for public consumption, only for each other, for themselves, for the quiet preservation of their own souls. You notice a small, faint ring on the corner of one page. It's not from ink. It's water, you realize, or perhaps a stray drop of condensation trapped during one of those hurried, uncertain transfers from palace to prison. You smile at the thought. History so often arrives polished, sanitized, stripped of its messy edges, but here it's delightfully, beautifully imperfect. There's a quirky detail that archivists and restorers quietly marvel over. Anastasia's notebooks occasionally contain tiny, hidden arithmetic problems scrawled in the margins, simple multiplication tables and geometry exercises she quietly worked through when a history lecture dragged on, a private game of focus disguised as daydreaming. It's a gentle reminder that even under the strictest surveillance, the mind carves out its own small sanctuaries, finding ways to play, to wander, to assert its quiet independence. You rest your fingertips lightly against the cool glass, feeling the subtle vibration of the climate control system humming below, and you understand that these pages are so much more than archival evidence. They're emotional lifelines. They're tangible proof that behind the imperial titles, behind the heavy expectations and the gathering political storm, were four sisters who worried about their hair, laughed at private jokes, missed their parents terribly, and loved each other with a ferocity that outlasted everything. Historians still argue whether the surviving diaries and personal correspondence represent the complete, unfiltered reality of the sisters' inner emotional landscapes, or whether they are subtly curated reflections shaped by their lifelong awareness of being observed by tutors, governesses, guards, and the ever-watchful eyes of a scrutinizing public. As you read a passage where Maria describes the profound comfort of a shared, wordless glance, or where Olga writes about the physical steadiness she feels when her sister's hands are pressed against hers, the academic debate begins to feel wonderfully distant. What remains is the emotional truth that leaps from the page, direct and unmediated. You feel it settle in your chest, a quiet resonance, a recognition of the universal threads of growing up, of sibling loyalty, of trying desperately to hold on to beauty when the world insists on turning grey. The modern preservation room fades slightly at the edges of your vision. The climate control, the velvet rope, the informational placards, they all soften. All that's left is the imagined scratch of a fountain pen, the delicate rustle of a turning page, the soft, steady rhythm of four young hearts beating in quiet synchronization. You aren't just observing history tonight. You're sharing a deeply personal moment across time. You drift toward a nearby display where a small wooden music box rests beside a carefully framed photograph. You don't need to wind the mechanism to know the gentle, familiar lullaby it would play. A soft folk melody from the Russian countryside, something their mother might have hummed while reading by the window, something simple enough to carry across generations. The photograph captures them on a terrace at Peterhof, the summer sun catching the edges of their cotton dresses, their arms linked at the elbow, their faces turned toward the camera with that familiar blend of poised grace and barely concealed amusement. You remember the sun-dappled gravel paths, the cool shock of Baltic water on your ankles, the delicate clink of porcelain on the swaying yacht deck. The artifacts don't merely document a life. They echo the sensory memories you've already walked through together. The crisp scent of lavender soap, the soft rustle of starched linens, the sharp, clean bite of Siberian winter air. It's all preserved right here, not in sweeping political manifestos or grand royal decrees, but in the quiet everyday details. Mainstream scholarship notes that the careful preservation of these deeply personal items, often hidden in loose floorboards, smuggled out by loyal staff, or quietly tucked into the hems of simple dresses during their captivity, was a deliberate, courageous act of hope, a steadfast belief that their quiet truth would eventually outlive the chaos that tried to erase it. You feel that hope now, warm and unshakable, as you read a final entry from Tatiana, dated in the quiet months before everything changed. Her handwriting remains careful, still deeply organized, noting the emergence of a single stubborn green shoot in a clay pot on the sill. It isn't a dramatic declaration, it's just a line, but it's everything. You step back slowly, letting the quiet of the room wrap around your shoulders like a familiar shawl. The modern world outside these walls continues its relentless rush: traffic, notifications, endless scrolling, the frantic noise of a 2026 that never seems to slow down. But in here, time breathes differently. The sisters' voices remain remarkably clear, entirely undistorted by the decades that separate you. They speak to you not as distant, gilded royalty, but as quiet reflections of the resilience we all carry when life grows heavy. You think about how their story has woven itself into our contemporary imagination, not through sensationalized headlines or dramatic reenactments, but through soft-spoken readings, quiet museum visits on rainy afternoons, the gentle turning of a page at midnight when sleep refuses to come and the heart seeks something steady to hold on to. Their legacy isn't locked away in glittering tiaras or sprawling palatial halls. It lives in the way they anchored each other through fear. It lives in the stubborn decision to plant seeds in frozen soil. It lives in the laughter shared behind closed doors, in the shared warmth of a single blanket on a cold night. You feel a profound, gentle calm settle over your breathing, the kind that only arrives when you finally realize that love, in its most patient, unwavering form, is the only artifact that truly survives. The ambient lighting dims just a fraction, casting longer, softer shadows across the floor. You take one last, lingering look at the diaries, the folded letters, the small wooden bird resting on a velvet tray, and you let out a slow, deliberate exhale. The past isn't trailing behind you. It's resting peacefully beside you, a quiet, steady companion guiding you gently toward rest. And as you turn to leave the quiet room, the weight of history feels less like a heavy crown and more like a soft, well-worn blanket, pulling you tenderly toward the next gentle step of their story. You step out of the quiet archive room and into the soft glow of a modern evening. The year is 2026, and the world outside your window moves at a frantic, breathless pace. Notifications chime, screens scroll, the daily grind hums with relentless energy. But you pause, and the noise fades. Because in this very moment, across time zones and digital borders, thousands of people are doing exactly what you're doing, seeking out their story. You're not alone in this quiet pursuit. You might find yourself listening to a softly spoken podcast episode while folding laundry, or turning the pages of a beautifully rebound diary edition on a rainy Sunday afternoon. You might even catch yourself scrolling through a quiet online forum where strangers share reflections on a single poignant line written a century ago. It's a strange, beautiful continuity. The Grand Duchesses, once confined to history books and formal portraits, now breathe in the digital age as quiet companions for the overwhelmed, the seeking, the hopeful. Mainstream cultural analysis confirms that in the mid-2020s, there's been a notable resurgence in interest in the Romanov sisters, driven not by sensationalized royal drama, but by a collective craving for narratives of quiet resilience, sisterhood, and grace under pressure. You feel that pull yourself, the desire to anchor in a story where love outlasts chaos, where dignity is chosen daily, even when the world offers none. You settle into a comfortable chair, a warm mug resting on the side table, and you watch the soft rain trace lazy paths down the glass. The sisters' story resonates now not because of their imperial blood, but because of their profoundly human choices. You see it in the way modern readers and listeners latch onto the simple, unguarded moments they shared. The whispered jokes in the nursery, the coordinated planting of garden seeds, the steady hands that comforted wounded strangers, the quiet determination to maintain a schedule when freedom vanished. In an era that often glorifies burnout, hustle, and loud self-promotion, their narrative offers a gentle counter-rhythm. It whispers that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's the soft click of a knitting needle. Sometimes it's the careful tending of a single potted plant. Sometimes it's four sisters choosing to sit together in the dim light, sharing a book, refusing to let fear fracture their bond. You remember that crocodile dung sunscreen joke from a lifetime ago, and you smile at how history's grand narratives always hide these wonderfully human, slightly absurd details. But beneath the humor lies a profound truth. Poise isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, again and again with grace, even when your hands are shaking. There's a quirky modern fringe detail that archivists and digital historians quietly marvel at. A growing number of teenagers and young adults have begun leaving digital candles and pressed flower images on online memorial pages dedicated to OTMA, often accompanied by handwritten notes about how the sisters' diary entries help them navigate their own periods of isolation, anxiety, or family tension during recent global shifts. It's a quiet, decentralized tradition, entirely spontaneous, born from a generation that feels the weight of uncertainty and finds unexpected solace in the steadfast loyalty of four young women who face their own unknowns with remarkable calm. You can almost see it now, a screen glowing softly in a darkened bedroom, a teenager reading Olga's thoughtful reflections or Maria's gentle sketches, feeling a sudden, profound sense of kinship across a century. It's not about idolizing royalty, it's about recognizing a mirror. The sisters didn't have the luxury of modern coping mechanisms, therapy apps, or curated self-care routines. They had each other, a routine, a faith, and a stubborn refusal to surrender their inner light. And somehow, that's exactly what speaks to us today. Historians still argue whether the modern fascination with the Grand Duchesses stems from a genuine psychological need for historical models of resilience in an increasingly fragmented world, or simply from the romanticized tragedy of their narrative that contemporary media continues to repackage for emotional consumption. But as you sit here, feeling the quiet weight of their story settle over your shoulders, the academic debate begins to feel wonderfully secondary. What remains is the lived, breathing resonance of their bond. You see it reflected in modern sisterhoods, in friend groups that function as chosen families, in the quiet communities that form around shared vulnerability rather than shared status. The sisters' legacy isn't a relic, it's a blueprint. It's a reminder that when external structures crumble, the architecture of love, routine, and mutual support becomes the foundation that holds you upright. Mainstream sociological studies of historical memory note that societies consistently turn to figures who embody quiet endurance during periods of collective stress, seeking narratives that validate patience, empathy, and emotional steadiness over dramatic heroism. You feel that validation now. The Grand Duchesses didn't save an empire. They didn't rewrite political history, but they saved each other in the small, daily, unrecorded moments that matter most when the grand narratives fail. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the rain's rhythm sync with your breathing. The modern world outside continues its frantic dance, but inside this space you've carved out, time softens. You think about how easily their story could have been reduced to a cautionary tale, a tragic footnote, a dramatic plotline. Instead, it lives on as a lullaby for the weary. It's in the way a modern reader highlights a passage in a diary and shares it with a friend with a simple, "This made me breathe easier today." It's in the quiet documentaries that focus not on palaces and politics, but on handkerchief, garden seeds, and the careful preservation of handwritten letters. It's in the gentle acknowledgement that poise under pressure isn't about never breaking. It's about how you mend, how you hold space for each other, how you choose dignity when indignity is all that's offered. You open your eyes and notice a small stack of books on your shelf, one of them a modern reprint of their collected letters. The cover is simple, understated. You run your thumb along the spine, feeling the familiar, comforting weight of paper. It's a tangible bridge between then and now, between their quiet rooms and your modern sanctuary. The resonance of their story in 2026 isn't loud. It doesn't trend with hashtags or dominate headlines. It hums. It's the soft background frequency that guides you back to yourself when the noise becomes too much. You see it in the way people speak of OTMA now, not as distant historical figures, but as quiet companions who understood the weight of expectation, the comfort of routine, the healing power of shared silence. You remember the sun-dappled paths of Peterhof, the cool Baltic breeze, the crisp antiseptic scent of the hospital wing, the confined but fiercely protected rooms of their captivity. Each phase of their journey mirrors something we still navigate: the search for joy, the call to serve, the necessity of adaptation, the profound importance of holding on to what you love when everything else shifts. And through it all, the sisterhood remains the constant, not a perfect, frictionless bond, but a real, lived-in, fiercely loyal one. They argued, they teased, they misunderstood each other, and they still chose each other every single day. That's the legacy that echoes forward. That's the truth that keeps drawing you back, night after night, to their story. As the rain softens to a gentle drizzle and the room settles into a deeper quiet, you feel the weight of the modern world lifting just slightly. You don't need to solve everything tonight. You don't need to carry it all. You just need to remember that resilience isn't a solo act. It's a shared rhythm. It's the quiet hands that steady yours. It's the laughter that breaks the tension. It's the simple, profound choice to plant seeds, write letters, keep routine, and love fiercely, even when the horizon is unclear. The Grand Duchesses understood this, and in understanding it, they left you a map, not for escaping the storm, but for dancing through it with grace. You lean back, feeling the chair cradle you, and you let the calm wash over your shoulders, slow and steady. The past isn't behind you, it's beside you, whispering that it's all right to rest, to trust, to let the quiet do its work. And as the evening deepens, you feel yourself sinking gently into that truth, carried by the enduring, pressure-tempered grace of four sisters who taught a century how to breathe. The rain outside has slowed to a soft, rhythmic patter against the glass, matching the steady cadence of your breathing as you settle deeper into the quiet. The weight of the modern day lifts, dissolving into the gentle amber glow of the room, and you find yourself returning to them, not as historical subjects, not as tragic figures, but as quiet companions who have finally found their rest. You close your eyes and the centuries peel back like layers of silk, leaving only a profound, unshakable calm. The Grand Duchesses are no longer confined by palace walls or winter exiles. They are woven into the fabric of memory, resting in a space where time no longer rushes, where duty no longer demands, where the only requirement is to simply be. You feel that peace wrapping around you, soft and heavy, like a well-loved blanket that has finally found its rightful place on tired shoulders. Mainstream historical records confirm that in the decades following their passing, extensive archaeological efforts, forensic analyses, and eventual state memorials ensured the Romanov sisters were laid to rest with quiet dignity in the Peter and Paul Cathedral in St. Petersburg, a final return to the imperial resting place they once knew, now transformed into a sanctuary of reflection rather than power. You imagine them there, not as monuments, but as a gentle presence, a quiet anchor in a city that has learned to remember without rushing, to honor without demanding. You breathe in slowly, and the air carries the faint, imagined scent of lavender soap, the same clean, soothing fragrance that once greeted them in cold morning basins and crisp white linens. It's a scent that seems to bridge the gap between then and now, between history and your own quiet moment. You remember the soft click of knitting needles in a confined Tobolsk room, the steady rhythm of Tatiana's hands creating warmth from simple wool. You remember the cool shock of Baltic water on sun-warmed skin at Peterhof, the way laughter used to bounce off the shaded park paths like skipping stones. You remember the quiet determination in Olga's journal entries, the tender sketches in Maria's diaries, the playful marginalia that Anastasia left like tiny, sparkling breadcrumbs across the years. All of it remains, not as a heavy archive, but as a lullaby. The bond they forged as OTMA wasn't just a childhood acronym or a secret signature on letters. It was a living, breathing promise. A promise to face whatever came together, with grace, with routine, with unwavering love. And in keeping that promise, they left you a blueprint for quiet endurance. You don't need to carry their tragedy. You only need to remember their peace. There's a quirky, almost whispered detail that modern archivists and local guides sometimes share about the grounds near their final resting place. On certain still evenings, when the Neva River runs calm and the city traffic fades to a distant hum, visitors report finding small, perfectly preserved birch leaves resting neatly on stone steps or windowsills near memorial markers. No wind seems to place them. No passerby drops them. They simply appear like quiet tokens left by unseen hands, a natural reminder that life continues to bloom, even in places marked by memory. You smile at the thought, letting the gentle absurdity of it settle in your chest. History is rarely as neat as textbooks suggest, and sometimes the most enduring echoes are the quiet, unexplained ones. Historians still argue whether the enduring fascination with the Grand Duchesses stems from a genuine cultural need for models of emotional resilience in fragmented times, or from a romanticized nostalgia that projects modern desires for simplicity onto a deeply complex past. But as you sit in the quiet dark, feeling your shoulders drop another fraction, the academic debate feels wonderfully far away. What remains is the simple, undeniable truth. Their story comforts you. It doesn't demand analysis. It doesn't ask for debate. It simply invites you to rest, to trust, to let the weight of the day dissolve into the steady rhythm of a breath you no longer need to hold. You shift slightly, feeling the familiar contours of your pillow, the soft drape of your sheets, the gentle hum of the room settling into night. The Grand Duchess's journey wasn't about escaping the world. It was about finding a way to carry beauty through it, even when the path grew steep, even when the light grew thin. They planted seeds in frozen soil. They wrote letters in dim rooms. They held each other's hands when words failed. They chose dignity when it would have been easier to surrender to despair. And in doing so, they carved out a space in time that belongs entirely to peace. You don't need to replicate their life. You only need to borrow their quiet. Let their steadiness become your anchor. Let their sisterhood remind you that you are never truly alone in the dark. Let their final, unspoken message wash over you. It is all right to let go. It is all right to close your eyes. The story has been told. The memory is safe. The night is long, but it is kind. You feel the room grow warmer, softer, the edges of consciousness blurring into a gentle haze. The rhythmic sound of your own breathing begins to sync with something older, something steadier, a heartbeat that has echoed through nursery walls, through hospital wards, through Siberian winters, and now into your quiet room. It doesn't ask anything of you. It only offers presence. You remember the way the light used to fall across their simple desks in the Alexander Palace, painting soft gold squares on worn wood. You remember the delicate clink of porcelain on the swaying deck of the royal yacht, the soft rustle of starched cotton in a garden plot, the quiet scratch of a pen capturing a thought meant only for a sister. All of it is preserved now, not in glass cases or academic papers, but in the quiet spaces between your thoughts, in the gentle pause before sleep takes you. There's no urgency left, no deadline, no scrolling screen. Just you, the dark, and the quiet certainty that history has made room for your rest. The Grand Duchesses have already done their part. They've weathered the storm. They've kept their promises. Now they're simply resting, and in their rest they make room for yours. You let your hands relax at your sides, feeling the cool cotton of your sleeves, the steady rise and fall of your chest. The past isn't pulling you backward, it's holding you still, like a soft hand on your shoulder, whispering that you've carried enough for today. The lavender scent fades into the clean, cool air of your room, the knitting needles, the garden soil, the hospital corridors, the quiet exile. All of it settles into a single, seamless tapestry of calm. You don't need to remember everything tonight. You only need to remember that peace is real, that it's quiet, that it's waiting for you in the spaces between breaths. The OTMA bond wasn't just a historical footnote. It was a quiet rebellion against fear, a daily choice to love, to hope, to endure. And in honoring it, you honor the quietest, most resilient part of yourself. You feel the weight of it lift, replaced by a gentle, floating lightness. The room is dark, the air is still. Your mind is softening, unspooling, letting go of the day's tight knots one by one. You are safe here. You are held here. The story is complete. The echoes are kind. And as the final threads of wakefulness loosen, you allow yourself to sink, to drift, to surrender to the quiet. You breathe slowly now, letting each exhale carry away the last remnants of the day. The air is still, the room is quiet, and the gentle hum of the night wraps around you like a soft, familiar blanket. You don't need to hold on to anything anymore. The Grand Duchesses have already done the heavy lifting of memory, leaving behind a quiet sanctuary where you can simply rest. Feel the weight of your limbs growing heavier, your thoughts growing softer, your breathing growing deeper. There is nowhere else you need to be. There is nothing else you need to solve. The past has settled into peace. The present has softened into stillness. The future can wait. Let your eyes stay closed. Let your shoulders drop. Let the quiet do its gentle work. You are safe, you are calm, and you are already drifting. The night holds you. The story rests with you. Sleep comes easily now. End of sweet dreams.